Summit Spot, Uzbekistan, hosted by the Ministry of Digital Technologies and IT Park Uzbekistan. At the crossroads of innovation, Uzbekistan welcomes the world. Today, founders, builders, technologists, policymakers, and partners come together to learn and to shape what's next. Across the day, hear keynotes and dive into panels that explore the opportunities and challenges defining our industry. Meet someone new, compare notes, start a collaboration that lasts. This is WebSummit Spotlight, Uzbekistan, hosted by the Ministry of Digital Technologies and IT Park Uzbekistan.
Spotlight, Uzbekistan. The very first event held in collaboration with Central Asian and CIS countries. Today, we welcome over 400 participants, including over 90 international guests from more than 30 countries. Startups, venture funds, accelerators, business angels, government representatives, and ecosystem builders. We deeply appreciate your support and interest. A bit about myself. My name is Kira Haley, and I'm executive producer at WebSummit, the world's largest technology conference. We gather over 70,000 people in Lisbon every year. We bring together founders, investors, policymakers, and media. And we discuss what's next in tech and society. At WebSummit, our mission is to create meaningful connections and conversations that help innovators scale globally. And it's a privilege to be in Tashkent today. In 2026, we'll have events in Doha, Vancouver, Rio, and Lisbon, and you're all more than welcome to join us. What excites me most about this visit is witnessing the first-hand incredible momentum that Uzbekistan's tech ecosystem is experiencing. Uzbekistan now ranks #2 in the world by growth rate, and its startup ecosystem is valued at over $1.2 billion. What's remarkable is the diversity. Startups thriving in edtech, health tech, AI, fintech, logistics, and even game development. IT Park Uzbekistan is truly becoming a global hub. You'll get a chance to meet some of these startups later today at our networking event. But what's happening here in Tashkent is a great reminder that innovation is borderless. At WebSummit, we believe the next generation of global success stories can come from anywhere. And from what I've seen here, Uzbekistan is one of the most exciting frontiers in technology today. Looking ahead to today's program, we'll dive deeper into some of those most pressing conversations shaping this ecosystem and the global tech landscape. We'll explore global venture investment trends, the impact on emerging markets, and we'll ask an important question: why invest in Central Asian startups? We're looking at connecting corporations globally, and we're also going to discuss one of the most transformative forces of our time with a session on AI and its future. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the WebSummit team for being here. Thank you so much for everyone at the IT Park for supporting this collaboration. It's a pleasure to be here, and I have the honor of welcoming His Excellency, Mr. Umarov, the First Deputy Minister of Digital Technologies, to deliver his welcoming remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Minister of Digital Technologies. Welcome to IT Park. It's my big honor to be here, participate in this summit. On the behalf of the Minister of Digital Technologies, it's my great honor to welcome all of you in this historic event, the first Web Summit Spotlight in Central Asia, here in Tashkent. This summit is a gateway to the future, a future where Uzbekistan emerges as a key player in the global digital economy. When I think of the digital journey, one word comes to mind: opportunity. Opportunity to grow faster, opportunity to every project to reach global markets, opportunity to connect with investors and partners who look on Uzbekistan as a new regional center of innovation. Let me share our vision for development, IT industry, and startup ecosystem. First, it's digital infrastructure. No idea can grow without strong network, data centers, and fast internet. We are building a digital infrastructure across the whole country. So that every talented young person, no matter where they live, can join the global market. Second, and strong startup environment. Ideas need support to scale. Through the IT Park and national programs, we give startups mentorship, easier rules, tax benefits, and direct access to investors. Third, global expansion. The time has come for Uzbek solutions to step beyond national borders. Uzbekistan is moving from being a consumer of technology to becoming a contributor of the global digital economy. Second, that I would like to add that, Uzbekistan is the biggest population country in the Central Asia. It's almost 38 million people in our country. And most of them, it's young people. Maybe 65% of our population is young. So for government, they should think how to create new jobs for these young people. Every year, our population growth is plus 1 million people. So startup ecosystem, startup project, innovation, entrepreneurship, I think it's one of the big, significant tools to create new jobs for our young people. And government think that development of startup environment, startup ecosystem is one of the significant points in this vision. Think about this. In 2021, the value of our startups was less than $1 million US. Today, just 4 years later, it's more than $1.2 billion US. This is not a luck. This is a result of reform, vision, and the energy. Dear friends, this WebSummit in Tashkent is more than a conference. It's a launchpad where ideas become companies and where talks turn into partnership. With that, I officially opened our event. May idea be born, project grows, and partnership succeed. Welcome to Tashkent. Welcome to Minister of Digital Technologies. I'm very glad to see here a lot of new people and my friends. During the last 10 days, I was in the United States, participated in San Francisco with a lot of significant big companies, like acceleration companies like Plug and Play, 500 Globals, Startup Genome, and other organizations. And I see a lot of opportunity for cooperation and developing our contact to support our startups, local startups from Uzbekistan to go to global markets. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you so much to the Minister for your kind words, and also I'm very appreciative for the collaboration with WebSummit. Building bridges is what we care most about, so it's really great to be in Tashkent. Next up, I want to introduce our first keynote. It is Mr. Alfredo Gomez Soria, Director of Corporate Relations, Plug and Play Tech Center, and he is going to talk about unlocking potential in Uzbekistan as an innovation hub from his first-hand experience at Plug and Play.
Well, thank you so much. It is my pleasure to be here. That didn't sound like a proper clap, so I'm going to ask everyone to get a bit of energy in the room. Woo! How are we doing, guys? Are we excited? Come on, we've got WebSummit in town. Let's show some love. So, it's my pleasure to be with all of you guys today. It has been an incredible journey for us at Plug and Play in the country. I myself, feel proud to sometimes call Tashkent a second home, thanks to the amount of times I spend in the country with our teams. But let me kick it off, because actually, Plug and Play has now been in the market for 3 years. We have seen all of these reforms that the Deputy Minister was mentioning. We have seen all of the changes in the venture capital ecosystem. But we've seen one thing. We've seen the ambition, we've seen the hunger, the willingness, and we've seen the new ways and new opportunities that startups are bringing us in town. And this has only been possible thanks to very ambitious reforms, very ambitious motivation, and having a team that actually is willing to go the extra mile, right? We have one of the youngest populations in the country. very hungry. They want more. They want to build success. And let me tell you a story. The first time we came to the country and we met with Minister Shermatov and Deputy Minister, do you guys know what was the first question they asked us? When do we have our second unicorn, right? It wasn't about, oh, how can we help? It was, we want more. It was about that vision and that ambition to actually be able to deliver value to the economy, to be able to deliver new jobs, to be able to help the startups and the young founders. So altogether, I think it's been mentioned by many of the different stakeholders, right? IT Park has been providing an incredible infrastructure with more than 14 different branches across the country, 6 representative offices, and really helping the startups with all the different tools and needs that they need. It was mentioned, right? Sometimes it's not just about the policy, it's about having the resources, it's about having that data centers, it's about having that infrastructure that will allow the startups for growth. Then, after talent, we have one of the best talents in the whole of Central Asia. We have very skilled people coming out of some of the best universities in the country willing to help us build the ecosystem. And for us to build an ecosystem, if we go to the next slide, it is something that we want to see. It is something that altogether we have seen happen in many other countries. So the perfect example, if we go to the next slide, is the PayPal mafia, right? I come here to the country and I wonder myself, when are we going to see the Uzum mafia? When are we going to start to see the TaskVision mafia? When are we going to start to see the Iman mafia, right? When are we going to start to see those networks of founders that are coming out of some of the best startups in the country and in the region, building new startups, right? Even for, the VCs in the room. Let's do a quick raise of hands. How many of you guys are startups? Startups? Okay. How many of you guys are venture capitalists? Perfect. How many of you are students? Wonderful. How many of you are government officials? Wonderful. So we've got everyone in the room. So yeah, all together we can build this ecosystem, and that's where we want to go. That's where we want to focus our attention. And for us, if we go to the next one, it has been an incredible journey. Since we launched our first operations in 2022, all the way until our current program. We've currently started and are about to start our 5th batch of acceleration program in the country. We have been able and had the privilege to work with some of the best founders across the country and the region, and we're looking forward to doing more in the country, right? So it is crucial that you are not shy, that you are hungry, that you come and engage with all the different partners, the VCs, the universities, the accelerators, the incubators. So my message today that I want to leave with is, let's work together, because you have a network of plug and play. If we go to the next slide as well, we have a network of plug and play that can help you facilitate this interaction. So altogether, we really want you to be successful. We really want you to expand. And for us, Uzbekistan now sits in the heart of Central Asia and does our central regional operations office here. So thank you so much, everyone. I hope you have a great day, and I hope you actually get to enjoy some incredible conversations with everyone we have in the room. I'm looking forward to connecting with all of you.
Good job. Thank you so much, Alfredo, for those super interesting words. As my grandmother always said, your network is your net worth. So I think that's very clearly outlined by the first keynote. We now move on to our second keynote of the day, and I'd like to introduce Katrine Kaledo, the Chief Ecosystem Success Manager at Startup Blink. Every ecosystem has a story, and the data shows where it's heading next. We'll hear from her to find out more.
Hi everyone, good morning. Really excited to be here today. As was mentioned, I will be talking about the Uzbekistan startup ecosystem, its growth so far, and where we think it will be going in the next couple of years. Okay, so before everything else, I'd like to introduce Startup Link to everyone. Startup Link, we're a global platform and startup research center. We have a platform, but also we release reports about ecosystems around the world. We rank 100 countries and over 1,000 cities. So how do we do these rankings? I'll move a bit here. We do these rankings by a lot of different parameters. We have over 39 parameters, and we have a total score that divides these score into the quantity, quality, and business. Quantity looks at how many of these stakeholders are there. Quality looks at how good the stakeholders are. For example, investment amount, unicorns, and startup business environment is how easy it is for startup to set up their own business in that location. Before diving into Uzbekistan, I'd like to show who are the top 10 right now on our rankings. We can see here that most of the top 5 are actually in the US. We have, we have 3 in the top 10 that are from Asia and 2 from Europe. So now let's dive deep into the Uzbek startup ecosystem. This year is the first year that Uzbekistan went into the top 100 for us. We can see from the trajectory that from 2022 until now, there has been great growth. This year, Uzbekistan is growing by 89.9%, the first in Central Asia and the second fastest growth globally. Tashkent, on the other hand, is growing around more than 132%. Comparing it to its peers, we can see that Uzbekistan is growing more than 4 times its other peers in the Central Asia. Kazakhstan is at 21.3%, and Kyrgyzstan has a bit of a decrease this year. Okay. Looking into Tashkent, so Tashkent is now in the top 400, and as I mentioned, it's growing by 132%. It's the highest in Central Asia and the second highest globally. Looking together with its peers in the Central Asia, Tashkent is second, but in terms of growth, it is more than twice that of Almaty, which is the second in terms of growth. And this is what we're seeing right now. There's really impressive growth in the ecosystem. And I also feel it when I arrived here. There's a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of efforts that are being put in. Okay. So now let's dive into what sectors are really showing great potential in the ecosystem. So the first one is fintech. Fintech is actually has been the best ecosystem for Tashkent for the second year in a row. It's also #1 in Central Asia in fintech, and it's the second time that is in this ranking for 2025. The next industry is e-commerce and retail. Tashkent is also the first here, and then followed by Astana and Almaty. Okay, so what do we need to do in order to sustain this growth? So there are a lot of things that are already happening, and I see some things happening already, but we need to continue it. First of all, we need to make sure that we're building connections with other ecosystems, exchange information, knowledge, bring our startups to those locations to learn from them, and also encourage them to go to big events in order to expose our startups to the global market. Okay, so why do we think Uzbekistan is really has really great potential, and why we should be in Uzbekistan now? First of all, of course, the amazing growth we're seeing. There's also a very young talent, as we've been seeing. Great startup policies, and the digital economy is also growing a lot. Okay. So now looking forward, based on the numbers that we see, if we continue to grow, then there will be also more growth in exporters. There's also more jobs that will be created. Looking into the current pledges, there will also be double employment if this continues. And also for export-oriented foreign capital, there will also be an increase if we continue this trend. But to continue that trend, as I mentioned, we need to do the steps that we saw a while ago. Okay, so now, why is it a good idea to invest now? Of course, it is a nascent ecosystem. So if you invest now, then you will be one of the first ones who will be in the ecosystem, and you will be one of the pioneers. There's strong growth, high favorable government policies, and there's opportunities across all sectors. I only mentioned fintech and e-commerce, but there's also great edtech startups here, and also AI. There's also growing infrastructure and support. So definitely Uzbekistan is growing, and we believe in its potential. And we believe if we continue what we're doing now, a lot of this growth will continue moving forward. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great day.
Thank you so much, Katrine, for that super insightful insight into the data. And next up, we have our first panel of the day. I'd love to welcome Nada, Alexei, Mustafa, Sumaya, talking about global venture investment trends and their impact on emerging markets, looking at bringing together these top insights, investors, venture capital leaders, and emerging market founders to discuss what is happening in venture globally. Thanks so much.
Hello everyone, Salam alaikum. I want to thank IT Park before we start for the amazing hospitality that we have been since we landed here. Thank you so much. And I'm happy that we are having WebSummit here finally in Uzbekistan. Thank you so much as well for hosting us today. And please help me welcome our co-panelist, Alexei from EY, Uzbekistan, and Mustafa, Managing Partner, Domino Ventures. And my dear friend, Sumaya from Rasmel Ventures, Qatar. Thank you. So I want to start with introductions. So let me introduce myself, and then I would ask our panelists today to also give our audience a brief about your experience and your companies as well. So my name is Nada Shaheen. I'm Managing Director, GB Ventures. It's a corporate venture capital mainly focusing in Egypt and Africa. And mainly focusing on the African region, but I'm so excited to explore the opportunities in the Uzbekistani and Central Asia region as well, and finding like a potential cooperations between the two regions. So let me start with you, Alexei. Please, could you start introducing yourself?
Yeah, thank you. My name is Alexei Koligov. I am a director at the Ernst & Young, Uzbekistan, for tax and legal practice. And my main background is doing transactional work, supporting clients with various M&A deals, investments, inbound, outbound investments, and basically very excited to be here and to talk in this panel.
Hello everyone. I'm Mustafa Kopuk. I'm the managing partner and the founder of the Domino Ventures. As you know, we are a Netherlands-based VC fund, and we incorporated local VC in Uzbekistan. We are active in the region for the last 3 years. We invested more than 7 different startups. We created acceleration programs. It's always a pleasure for us to come here, talk with the people, with the startups and the IT park. And I'm happy to see WebSummit brand here, because maybe 3 years ago when we first come to Tashkent ecosystem, I couldn't believe that we can succeed this kind of improvements in 3 years, 2 years. Right now we are seeing the WebSummit here. ICTWEEK is growing. Thanks to IT Park and the ministers, so thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm super excited to be for the first time in Uzbekistan. Thank you so much for the warm welcoming. So I'm Sumaya Benbaya, I'm one of the partners of Rasmal Ventures. Rasmal Ventures is the first venture capital fund private that is born in Qatar. So we're one of the child funds of Qatar Investment Authority. And our mandate is to invest in local and international companies that would have a go-to-market in the Middle East. And this is why it's very interesting for us to be in markets like Uzbekistan to discover what the potential of startups, talent, and offerings and how we could help build bridges to our part of the world. So we invest in from pre-A to B, so we're more a little bit later stages, and we look at all sectors. This trip was really a discovery and super insightful, and looking forward to this panel.
Thank you so much. Actually, I'm really glad to have you here. And I want to start with you, Sumaya. As you already focusing on this region and the global regions as well, and our topic today is the trends in the global and the emerging markets, I want to ask you about how do you see the Central Asian market as an emerging market, and what do you want, or what do you see like the best practices for like building this ecosystem and enhancing it, like the other emerging markets, and from your experience in other emerging markets as Rasmal?
Yeah. So it's my first time in Uzbekistan, and I'm now doing a lot of trips in this part of the world and really discovering what's happening. I see definitely, and I feel it in every trip recently, a momentum. There is this super interesting passion from the young generations to build. Like every ecosystem we go, we were speaking with friends yesterday, we see, you know, their eyes shining. There is this hunger in a positive way of people wanting to build. And the great opportunity is that in those emerging markets, there are a lot of gaps and a lot of opportunities to build. So there is that, you know, willingness from the generations and entrepreneurs to build that is definitely there, that we might sometimes miss in other parts of the world that we see, that are a little bit more mature or are a little bit more comfortable or have less challenges in life. So that's definitely always super exciting for investors to see, because at the end of the day, it's the entrepreneur and his willingness and passion to push forward when they have a big market to solve problems. So that's definitely something we see in there. And also the trend that I'm seeing is that more and more sovereign funds and more governments, like what we see now in Uzbekistan, are really putting effort. So it's not only coming from bottom top, but we're also seeing the management and the governments putting a lot of efforts to make this happen. So the regulations are being improved a little bit everywhere, facilitations for talent to come, empowering the local talent to travel and to come back. You know, conferences like WebSummit that are happening and expanding a little bit everywhere, bringing us to discover this part of the world is also amazing. So I would say the trends that we're seeing and we think should be, let's say, strengthened in this part of the world is definitely helping more and more facilitating VCs, attracting investors and VCs and international talent. Even if we have amazing local talent, it's always great to be open to enter connections, co-investments, learning from other ecosystems and building those bridges. We're all about building bridges in the mandate of our VC, and we really encourage those, you know, this region as well to continue being open, to consider easier regulations, openness to talent, easier visas from a government perspective to keep that momentum happening and growing in that sense.
Yeah, and actually that's what makes me here really happy about the governmental support for the VCs, inviting everyone, having everyone at the same room. So this is really very healthy for the ecosystem and for building the ecosystem. So Mustafa, as you are like investing in Central Asia and you have experience with Uzbekistani founders, and usually everyone and all the VCs like chasing the unicorns all the time, but now we having like an early stage phase for the startups in Uzbekistan. What are like the metrics that you usually evaluate the startups or the founders early on, and you are like selecting these startups and these founders, and you believe that they are going to make it, so we can tell our startups and early entrepreneurs and founders?
Yeah. I always think that, we are so lucky that I'm investing the startup for the last 8 years. Actually I'm the computer engineer, and I worked in Central Asia and Eastern Europe as a M&A director, in the telecommunication area. That's why, for example, in the last 8 years, we invested more than 80 different startups, and we always choose the emerging founders, from Turkey, from Eastern Europe, from Balkans, and we realized that we need to see these founders need some ambition, right? But if you invest as a Domino Ventures, for example, we are chasing for the first day global startups, because we believe that in countries creating fintechs or creating local e-commerce giants, it's not so difficult for emerging countries. Each country around the world, even the less developed countries, they have some big fintechs, they have some big e-commerce giants. If you have population, you can easily do that. But if you want to bring more international VC to your country, or if you want to bring export money, you need to sell softwares, right? That's why in each country we investing right now, and we have a huge experience from the Turkish market, because maybe lots of people don't know that, but I don't know, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, all Turkish ecosystem was getting only $20 million investment. But right now, for the last 3 years, it's like $1.5 billion each year. We have, more than maybe 12 different unicorns, decacorns, everything. And it happens only for the last 3 years, 4 years. So we have this experience there. That's why we believe that if we invest the B2B SaaS startups, AI startups, high-tech and deep-tech startups here, and if we find founders like, for example, TaskVision founder Shaksut, if we introduce this guy with the international VCs, international venture capital firms, they can easily invest the Uzbek founders, no problem. But you need to create a good product. I think the main problem is, for example, 6 years ago, we are saying some of the Turkish founders, please put Turkish language, English language, or Russian language, Spanish to your websites. But for the last 3 years, no one cares about the other language. They are just using the English. They are trying to sell their product abroad, and they just start to sell in USA or Europe, or I don't know, Singapore or Korea. They don't care about the local markets. I think that's the mindset. That's our mindset. As Domino Ventures. If we push that very well, we can easily bring more money as an investment, as an international VC money. Also, we can easily create more export revenue for the Uzbekistan or Kazakhstan or all the Central Asian ecosystem.
Yeah, actually we have this rule. When we started our corporate venture capital, we need to invest with the local startups so we can later attract the global ventures to come and believe in our startups. So we need to believe first, to be like the early believer in our local ecosystems. So lately we can invite all the global venture capitalists to come in and invest and grow this investment and ecosystem and help startups to go globally as well. So thank you, Mustafa, for your insights. And Alexa, so we are here. I'm happy that we are having the venture capital side, and also we have the legal, corporate, governmental side. So we are lucky to have you today, Alexa. And we wanted to ask you about, you have worked already on large-scale cross-border transactions, but I need to ask you about how do the regulatory here in Uzbekistan can influence investments and flows in the market?
Well, at the end of the day, every investor coming into a country, maybe a new country for the investor, will be assessing to what extent he or she or the company can do the investment in this country. And part of this assessment would always be looking at the legal framework, at the regulatory framework from various perspectives, and basically the question that investors would be asking themselves would be, what is it that is required to do the business in the country? What licenses do I need? What certification requirements they are there? How can I move people into this country or hire local talent, and what the labor regulations are, and what company I need to set up, and what the taxation regime would be, and all the other questions rise, and basically it will be studied as part of this assessment and making a decision to invest in the vehicles in this country. So regulatory and legal frameworks are always very important, and I guess our lawyer's job is to connect businesses that are new to the country with giving them an understanding on how things are done locally and what the requirements are. And on various stages of assessment and decision making, be it looking at the startup or a company or target of investment, doing due diligence, or even moving with the transaction and looking in the transaction documents, choosing the law that needs to be governing this transaction documentation, and basically supporting investors all the way to do that. Well, in Uzbekistan, of course, is a fairly new and developing system of law, but the openness to investors, the drive for supporting investors coming into a country is very high. And despite there are certain, things that could be a little bit better. For example, the forms, corporate forms, are very limited for the investors. The limited liability companies that are used by startups mainly, or new businesses, or even investors that are coming into the country as main vehicles, not always, they do not always provide the necessary instruments to basically do what the investors used to do in other jurisdictions, for example. And it would be nice to have other vehicles, alternative vehicles, corporate forms that would allow investors to come, such as limited partnerships, for example. And there are also things that also influence that, like currency regulations that also can influence in inbound and outbound investments. It's certain limitations that local people will have to take into account to invest. For example, if you can't do an investment vehicle in Uzbekistan and you want to set up something outside of Uzbekistan, you'll be limited to bringing in some local money. But the developments are there. It's a very positive trend, and there'll be very important instruments and projects that are coming, that are being discussed during this week as well. And speaking of these projects, we have to mention International Digital Technology Center, which is a very important initiative, providing the investors with not just the incentives and in terms of tax and customs and so on, but also regulatory support through the regulatory sandbox, also providing the types of vehicles that they're used to, giving the access to the possibility of structuring the transactional documentation in governing with the English law, for example, or having an independent arbitration.
Yeah, that's actually a good news. So my next question for Sumaya and Mustafa, if you want to give us an answer as well, I want to ask about like the trends and the sectors that are attractive for you and for the VCs in 2025, so people here can have like the information and the knowledge about the sectors or business models as well?
Yeah. So as you already know, AI is booming right now, but actually the AI, you know, we were investing AI for the last 8 years, so it's not a new thing for us. But the main problem, I guess, because of generative AI, right now, in our Istanbul, London, and Amsterdam office, I have more than 16 different employees, full-time employees, and half of them is just working in the scouting. And we are screening more than 920 different startups each month. And each day we have 7 or 8 first meetings, right? From Central Asia, from Eastern Europe, from emerging markets. And also we are trying to find the diaspora and immigrant founders who are living in the developed countries. The main problem right now, by using AI, you can just create a startup in one day, right? You can create the websites, you can create the products, you can create the demos and even the pitch decks and the data room. That's a huge problem for us because we are trying to understand if this is the only 1 day or 2 day product, or this is just the team knows everything and understand the product. I think, you know, for the like emerging markets like Central Asian countries, we already know that the Central Asian engineers are good engineers, you know. Maybe because of the education system before, but we knew that you can easily find a good high-tech engineers here. That's why, for example, we always pushing them to create like deep tech startups or the clean tech startups because honestly, you know, I don't want to see more e-commerce APIs. I don't want to see more maybe EdTech or the HR tech startups here because right now it's really easy to create this kind of startups by using AI. But each VC around the world, I think after Gen AI, we are looking for good solution which is using generative AI very well and solving a big problem by using that. But we are not looking for the, you know, the just translation service in the e-commerce or the, I don't know, EdTech. That's why we are pushing the founders, please think a little bit different. Use AI very well. But if you have good engineers, you can develop a space tech startup, for example. We are right now talking with 2 space tech startups in Uzbekistan, 2 from Kazakhstan, and 0 from Turkey, for example. So it's a good sign for us, you know. We can easily find good engineers, good founders here.
Yeah, and let's make a trouble about AI. So everyone says AI, AI everywhere, but if AI is not complementing your business, so it shouldn't be an AI just for the trend, for all the startups here. So Sumaya, I want to hear your answer, and also I want to ask you from Mustafa's answer, how you like maybe filter the good startups, the AI, how you can see the potential from the early stages?
Definitely. So I know your answer was for the sectors, but I would really like to pause for a second and say, independently from the sector, we're really looking for disruptors. We're looking for founders that really want to disrupt sectors of big markets, right? So in that case, even if we have our preferences of sectors that I'll share with you, when we see that disruption, when we see that potential of really, now with all the tools we have, including AI and others, we can really disrupt every single sector in that sense, right? So who are those disruptors in that sense? So now, when it comes to our preference, being a venture capital fund that cares about a go-to-market in the Middle East, the sectors that we really see a lot of potential in, because we see that they're still containing gaps that needs innovations. I know I'm going to be sounding very repetitive, but fintech still has a lot of gaps in the Middle East, despite it being again and again #1 sector and amounts of investments that we see going to that sector. We still see a lot of gaps. We still have problems with SMEs, with lending. We still have, places in the Middle East that are not digitized when it comes to fintech. So that's huge. Still, we're looking at very closely. Supply chain as well. Supply chain logistics seems to be a boring sector, and it is a little bit boring when you read a lot about those processes and all that, but it's a sector that is huge, that is so much needed. Now more and more that the Middle East and the GCC are being a hub in so many ways, it is very important to find ways to make it more efficient, digitize it, empower connections between innovations on Asia and in the Middle East to find faster, better solutions. And this is the kind of offerings that we're looking for. Food security. I mean, in the GCC specifically, we import a lot of what we need. With macroeconomical challenges that we're seeing globally, we come back to thinking about the basics. Are we going to be able to have food? Are we going to be able to have water? Are we going to be able to feel safe? Like, such basic needs are coming back to our daily thoughts with what's happening, right? So back to, again, then agri-tech, food security, all those subjects are super important. How can we be more and more independent as countries, as regions, is also, anything around it is very interesting for us. Climate tech, I don't know where to start when it comes to this subject. I mean, it's concerning us all. In the Middle East, we're in a hotspot. And so more and more sustainable, scalable solutions in that sector coming from the region is very much needed as well. So this is from a sectors for your first question. Now, the second part was, how do we
select and see the potential early on?
Yeah. Well, I'm impressed by your numbers, but in our case, we look at, we're in pre-A and B, so maybe the pipeline is less developed. We look at over 1,000 companies per year, and we actually really try to give a fair time to every opportunity that comes our way. I mean, I think a lot of us in the partnership were founders before, so we know the pain not to coming back to the founders. So looking at them and trying to be really fair of giving every opportunity its time, it's all about execution. Especially for us when it comes to later stage. Again, disruptor and execution. So for the founders that, for example, are tackling a problem in a crowded market, we still back crowded markets when we really believe that this team still has an edge and a potential to make a difference in that market. Of course, it needs to be a huge market, right? So I can give you a lot of examples, and my colleague said, the core points of that, but it comes back to how willing is the team and how capable is the team to execute in those markets. How capable are they to understand the cultures and the go-to-market and the strategies of growing in those sectors. We don't invest, for example, in founders that are coming from a region to another and they don't know the basics about the culture, or at least one of the founders is relocating already or relocated to the region they want to expand in. For us, it's an even no-brainer in that sense.
Yeah, actually, expansion is one of the very risky decisions. But Sumaya, I want to ask you a question before we go to Alexi. I'm so sorry, but you said about what Africa and Middle East, the sector that it needs there. So I want to ask you, since I came here, I was thinking how we can bridge the ecosystems. Africa and Middle East kind of maybe isolated from Central Asia. In Central Asia, we don't have maybe all the insight that we should have there. So how do you see this bridging could happen? Is it like startups here has a potential to operate in Middle East and Africa, or the startups in Middle East could come and expand here? Do you see is it a healthy bridging and exchanging?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, part of the reasons I was interested to come to Uzbekistan is because we had some in our pipeline of companies from here, right? I was like, okay, so if they are approaching us and operating a little bit more in the GCC, it means maybe there is something happening, right? One of the examples that is concrete now that we're looking at, just to be more pragmatic, for example, fintech, right? Fintech is kind of more sophisticated here than in our part of the world, right? So there's a lot of developed solutions, and the ecosystem here is pretty, advanced in that sense. So the sophistication of the level of tech or solutions or experience or that you have here in Uzbekistan could be easily exported in our part of the world that is needed, right? So the models that we're seeing now in our pipeline, that is great. They're validating their market here. They're sophisticated in the tech and fintech, and they are an easy plug in our market in that sense. Again, as long as they have the right partners around them, they have a founding team on site, they have an operational team that is on the ground in that sense. So despite it, we're saying being a young ecosystem, it's as well sophisticated in some sectors. So if that sophistication can come to solve problems in our part of the world, that's definitely a great potential bridge that we could be part of empowering in a way.
Yeah, thank you so much for mentioning how important to study your expansion or your next destination and to see if it's like a really good market for you or not before like taking and putting all the money to make this expansion. Thank you so much. So Alexei, back to the governmental and the corporate involvement in the ecosystem. How do you see we can like encourage corporates here in Uzbekistan from working here in Uzbekistan and being here now? How do you see we can like enhance and like encourage more corporates to be part of this ecosystem? Is it like through the governmental support or regulatory? How do you see this?
Well, here in Uzbekistan is quite an exciting time to be right now, seeing how fast Uzbekistan is developing in terms of its market and also in various sectors, but also to see how a government is really keen on meeting the investors' needs and requirements in order to come and do business here. And of course, we have to mention the initiatives that government supports in Uzbekistan, this existence of such an opportunity for businesses and government and consultants and lawyers to work together under the Foreign Investor Council, for example, initiative, where representatives of all these groups can meet, discuss what the current needs are, what and where changes need to be made, and actually work together on improving or creating new legislation that would address all the needs that businesses have. So I think it is a very important initiative to talk about and to basically praise Uzbekistan government for doing this. And this initiative has already been giving some fruits, as we can say, because certain initiatives came and already are being discussed at governmental levels. Of course, again, a huge thing within this, for example, forum, the IDTC, the support of the government for creation of this project is just it will be very helpful for smaller businesses, for bigger businesses, for investors that are coming here, for startups that want to get certain preferences and understand and have a transparent ecosystem, legal ecosystem to work under. We can look at the examples of Dubai and Astana, the DIFC and AFC. For example, the legal community was very skeptical in the beginning when these projects got started, but the experience shows that they've been very successful, and I think we have all the reasons and grounds and support for this project in Uzbekistan to be very successful as well.
Okay, Okay, thank you so much. Back to Mustafa, and following on Sumaya's, Turkey is like bridging between Europe, Middle East, and you have like a developed ecosystem there. What are the lessons that you could share with us for the Uzbekistani ecosystem so they can have this kind of bridging between different markets and, yeah?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, this is the very good question. Because I was thinking about maybe we invested with more than 200 different VCs right now, and we invested with Goldman Sachs, EBRD, IFC, the APX fund, with everyone. And regularly, we are talking each other with these guys via WhatsApp, maybe each week. And for example, I knew that maybe 80% of these VCs was saying 5 years ago or 3 years ago, please start local, then you can go global. But right now it's maybe 10%, Even in the Turkish market, no one starts local, And that's why, please listen to me, if someone in Uzbekistan startup ecosystem tells you, please test your product in local, please don't do that. It's very simple. If you have a fintech startup, if you need a license, you need to start local. That's so simple. But if you have a digital product, please start global. That's so simple for everyone. And maybe it's not easy to say that, but the pandemic, the COVID was like a gift for the emerging founders. That because, for example, 6 years ago, I remember that we were giving $200K to one, for example, Turkish founder or the Romanian or Bulgarian founder, and after 1 year, 2 years, we were asking this guy to move to Silicon Valley. Right? And you gave him just $200K or $300K, and you are asking about move the family to Silicon Valley. So it wasn't working. But right now, everything is, digital. You have Zoom accounts, Team account, everything. You can sell your product online. If you have a digital product, you can easily sell in USA, in EU. There's no borders. So actually, the 3 years ago, we surprised that we came to Kazakhstan, we came to Uzbekistan. We were expecting that lots of founders don't know anything about creating a Delaware C Corp company or the UK headquarter. But this Central Asian ecosystem is better than the most ecosystem. They know everything. The language skills are very well. They usually know maybe 3 or 4 languages, and they can easily create a headquarter in anywhere, and they can keep their engineering team and the cost centers in their own country. This is actually our strategy. They can easily sell their product around the world. That's why this is the lessons, because we saw the same story, we saw the same history. Right now, for example, in the emerging markets, for example, Turkish markets, no one talks about the starting local, and no one uses more than 2 languages in their product. Yeah. Everyone is global right now. That's why every Uzbek founder, they need to think as a global founder. Also, please just, look at the Y Combinator startups and the, other acceleration program startups around the world, because we are trying to find, for example, AI cybersecurity startups in Uzbekistan, and we knew that they can easily create that. We are trying to, for example, just last week we invested one drug discovery startup based in UK with the Turkish founder with a $40 million valuation, and we just invested one, how can I say, little bit quantum tech startup. So we are just searching for that, and we knew that Uzbekistan have talent there. they can create different kind of huge, you know, big
sizes
startups.
We have a huge market here, so it's a big opportunity to operate here.
Yeah, you know, those are the lessons, you know, you need to think global from the first day. That's the big lesson, you know.
Actually, we are running out of time, so I want to ask like a final question for all of you. And I want you to give like an advice. Mustafa, you did an advice for the startups, but we can, I want to ask you to give an advice for the startups, but not only the startups, for also the venture capitalists and the people who want to start to invest here in Uzbekistan and Central Asia. So feel free, anyone want to start? Go ahead.
Yeah, you know, we are trying to bring more international VCs here. I think that this is our task as Domino Ventures, because we have this network, and each year we know that they will come here more, because everybody knows for example, 5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, Eastern Europe was the like big star around the world. But we believe that in 5 years, the Central Asian and also the Caucasus ecosystem will grow, because the you know, rules are here is very well right now, and we sure that it's going to grow and grow each year. But for the, you know, ecosystem, we need more local VCs. You know, we need more acceleration programs. We need more international VCs. But the main point here, we need more global founders, you know. If you don't have like global thinkers and ambitious founders, you cannot just tell the international VCs, just put some money to this founder, this startup. That's why for the VCs, you know, lots of VCs just think that if they come to Central Asia, maybe 1 or 2 times, they can find good startup or the, for example, funds of fund or the LPs. It's not working like that, you know. You need to come here more and more. You need to introduce yourself. For example, we made 4 different batches and all free Better Future Acceleration programs for the last 3 years. So you need to prove that you are like one of the ecosystem builder we see here, because for the next 3 years, I think this ecosystem needs more Domino Ventures here. So thank you.
Thank you, Mustafa.
Yeah, so I'll be brief for time. For founders, definitely I mean, today you have the opportunity to build things faster, cheaper. You have so many more tools that are available. I love bootstrappers, even though I'm a VC, I like to invest in founders, but I love bootstrappers as long as you can bootstrap and have your clients and have them as investors, that's great, and then focus more on smart money for your go-to-market later. That would be something I'd say to founders, because I see this tendency as well of founders just wanting to have investors on board even earlier, just as if it's a milestone of success. It is a milestone of success to succeed your company. So whatever is best for you at every time, you do not have to have a, you know, a specific funding if you don't need it in a way, but have it in a smart way. For VCs, I mean, we just made our first investment in Asia, not still in this part of the world, and one of the ways that we did it is really spending the time to build relationships, understand the market, and find local co-investors that would bring that complementary value. So we invest when we see them able to convert clients in our part of the world that we know very well, but then have that complementarity with another co-investors is definitely a great recomfort for us to move forward in markets we are still discovering at the end of the day, right? So you need to know what you know, and you need to know what you don't know in that sense.
Yeah, having a local partner, whatever you are a startup expanding to a new country or a VC, like expanding your investments, having the local people and the local co-investors is very important. Thank you, Sumaya. Alexei,
I'll be very short.
You need your advice.
Very short, and basically not very creative. So we understand that VCs and other investors, they do have money and they're used to using sophisticated lawyers to doing the transactions and investments. But the advice to founders and to the startups would be, despite it's sometimes difficult to employ a highly paid lawyer, but legal matters are important in structuring the relationship with the investor in doing the startup, so don't oversee legal matters.
Okay. Thank you so much. I wish you enjoyed our panel discussion. Thank you for listening to us, and have a good day. Thank you.
I'm so glad you came. Yes. Oh, sorry, good job, guys. Thank you so much. That's super interesting panel on global investment trends. And I just want to give a brief shout out to sponsors. Startup Base is an amazing hub that everyone should log into to have a look at. And it's a platform which unites all startups, partners, VCs, business, angels, and more. And I think there's a QR code there that you can use to scan to find out more. But talking about founders and how special a founder's journey is, and how playbooks for founders differ so wildly throughout different kind of iterations of the founder's journey, I want to introduce our next keynote speaker, who is in fact a founder from Uzbekistan. Beknazar is going to share his experience about building his company Hupo, an AI-powered leadership coaching platform already used by Grab, KPMG, and Sephora, helping leaders to lead and manage in smarter and faster ways. This company has already raised $4 million from Meta, Goodwater Capital, January Capital, Strong Ventures, and Collaborative Fund, making it one of the most promising new players in the APAC region. So I'd love to welcome onto stage Beknazar, and he will tell us more about his journey.
Hello, everyone. I was just practicing with ChatGPT, like motivate me in the style of Tony Robbins for my speech. So I hope it will work out. So my name is Beknazar. I am originally from Uzbekistan. Okay. So I'm from the city of Nukus, which is 1,200 kilometers from the capital, and I'm the CTO and co-founder of one of the fastest growing startups in Asia. I am a software engineer, my job, so I'm not very charismatic maybe, but I'll try my best to keep your attention. So from Nukus to global. We are first meta-backed startup in Asia, and we were in Forbes Asia Top 100 startups in 2022. So we started in 2022, and we started during COVID times. If you guys remember, one of the biggest pain points of companies was mental well-being of their employees. So we started our company with that pain point. We wanted to solve that. So we started as a B2B SaaS company, which helps mental well-being of the employees. So this is a Forbes article. The title. About some credibility here. So as our MC mentioned, we are used by Prudential, Endoas, Oracle, Sephora, Bank of Singapore, one of the top bank and insurance companies in the Asia. Also, we are backed by Meta, Collab Fund, Goodwater Capital, Wisdom Ventures. In total of $4 million we raised. Pre-seed round, 1 million. Seed round, 3 million. And we have a good runway, so basically. From the origin, like I mentioned, we started with battling mental wellness of employees. So we started very scrappy. So I worked at Amazon as a software engineer, and I learned one of the biggest lessons was be scrappy, just move fast. So we started with simple no-code solution for our landing page, for our onboarding page on Webflow. And plus, we use WhatsApp to connect mental wellness coaches with the employees. So we just wanted to do the minimal work just to prove our concept. And we signed our first client almost with no code. So the lesson was for us that just we have to move fast, prove that it will work. So in 1 month almost, we signed our first contract. And then we were able to raise our pre-seed with our solution. And now actually, we started as AMI Mental Wellness. We were called AMI, which means in Japanese friend. And it was, like I mentioned, it's just simple MVP. And we were mostly founder-led sales. Early enterprise pilots we got from warm interest thanks to investors and some of the first clients. And now, actually, we are called HUPO for Human Potential. But we are still supporting the employees at companies and enterprises. So the key story never changed, but what we realized is mental wellness of employees was the source of that. The problems were bad management. So we wanted to tackle the root cause of the situation. So we pivoted to leadership coaching, which we felt even a stronger pull from the market. And right now, we were doing the human coaches, using human coaches, but now our core engine is AI. So AI trains the employees, managers, or frontline teams to improve their skills. So this is like evolution in the zoom out, when we zoom out. So we started in 2022 as AMI. Then we switched to more like coaching, which tackled the root cause. And then when we were doing, so in our platform, we had the feature where you could role play difficult conversations with your employees, with your direct reportees or your managers. And one of the managers mentioned that, can I role play this? Can I role play with my potential clients, my sales calls, so that I can learn how to handle objections, how to do cold calling. And then HUPO 2.0 emerged, and we felt even stronger pull from the market, and we were able to sign from top banking and insurance and big enterprises of Asia. I wish I could talk about our traction here, but it's not publicly disclosed information. But we are doing well. We are preparing for Series A raising in the coming months. And eventually, the vision is for us to become the default AI OS for the global frontline. So, we want frontline teams to be able to practice before the calls, during the calls. We want to live train them, and after them, we want to measure the progress. We want to have the whole intelligence for the whole team. So now we started with sales. We can replicate it with customer support teams. We can replicate it with HR. So we want to be default AI OS. So that's the vision that we are looking at. And I see that, I feel like there are a lot of engineers here, software engineers, and as a CTO, I wanted to just dedicate one slide for how my role has been evolving as a CTO. In the beginning, I was a designer. I was like doing the prototypes, almost like talking to clients even sometimes to understand their pain points. And like Bruce Lee says, be like water. And you have to I had to fill in the gaps where needed. And after that, the next stage, when we started to get some clients and scale the team, I wasn't the only engineer in the team, so I had to build a team. And thanks to excellent talent emerging from Uzbekistan and Central Asia, we were able to build an amazing team that's been selling to big companies now. So right now, we are at the stage we're about to scale even stronger, and I am now almost like Chief Security Officer. My job is. So I'm handling the security questionnaires, vendor onboarding, talking to hours of security-related questions. Yeah, like some bureaucratic stuff, and yeah, that's how my role has been evolving. And the final lessons that worked for us to get to this page, I don't want to say that we are successful yet. We are still in day one. We want to grow more. But so far, we survived. I think for startup, when you get to Series A stage, it's like a miracle. Most companies die, 90%, like there are some bunch of statistics. And thanks that we have survived, thanks to our resilience, our adaptability, I believe. So, the first big lesson for us was like selling before it's perfect. So most companies spending time, months, like making sure the product is perfect, everything is great, it works without bugs. Like many, I think some famous startuppers said, if you are not ashamed of your first version of your product, then you are too late. So if there are people who are doing startups now, I recommend you to just ship fast and try to get the clients first. Yeah. And I think investors helped us a lot, especially Meta. Like when we used to cold outreach on LinkedIn, our first line was, "We are backed by Meta," and they would be like, "Okay, I'm interested." They see something special, and there were some investors who helped us to just land in a meeting with big enterprises. Yeah. And I think shipping fast is important. I think it's iterated enough in many like YC schools and a bunch of accelerators, just killing features fast as well. And geography is very important. As a co-founder from Uzbekistan, I think we were in a good position to build the right product team. And we have excellent talent, like I mentioned, in Uzbekistan, I believe. That if you combine it with amazing operations team and sales teams with global experience, I think we can build, like Alfredo, I think mentioned from Plug and Play, where is the second unicorn? I think we can build the next unicorn. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Beck Nazar. I think he deserves a round of applause for such an amazing journey as a founder and sharing his story. Next up, we have a panel that's going to discuss a key question, leading on from the founder's journey, but to the core question of why invest specifically in Central Asian startups. This panel has Andrea, Imtiaz, Michael, Mahmoud, and Abbas, and they're going to come up on stage and discuss why it is that we should be investing in this region, in startups here, in talent here, and what the benefits of that can be.
This is an exciting moment because we have heard this morning so much information, so many statistics, so many big wins that I can feel this room is about to make history. And those moments when discussions like these and the relationships that we have with each other start sparks is how ecosystems of regions start to take off. So I'm Andrea Cates, and I'm very pleased to be facilitating a panel of fantastic people I can't wait for you to meet. And the topic is blending from what we've talked about so far, which is we have an infrastructure, we have interest, we have the government, we have a history, but what will it take to achieve escape velocity, especially when it comes to our topic, why invest in Central Asia. So I'd like to welcome Abbas Kazmi and Mahmad Karim, Michael Lintz, and also Imitaz Bashrat, who are my new best friends. Hopefully they'll be your best friends. And we'll be talking about why invest in Central Asia. Before we start with introductions, and I'll let probably Abbas go first with introductions down the row, I'll tell you the three roles that I'm here representing. First role, former CEO of a tech company in Silicon Valley. We commercialized technologies using the lean startup. So the role of founder that's been stated this morning, critical. Second role is working with Summa Ventures, still out of San Francisco, to look at what's going on in these new technologies. And the third role is I'm honored to be entrepreneur in residence at MIT, where we believe in shared prosperity, which is investing in growth markets with a specific emphasis on Central Asia right now, and Africa, Latin America, and the Middle East. Okay, Abbas, why don't we start with you introducing yourself and just tell us your background and what it is about this topic that you think puts it on the brink of something exciting to talk about.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Firstly, thank you to the IT Park team and to WebSummit for hosting us here today. It's great to be back in Tashkent and to see the progress just in the last year since my last visit here to ICTWEEK. If you look at the stats alone, I think the amount of venture capital funding in Uzbekistan has tripled in the last year. If you look at the 2024 numbers, there are over a dozen VC funds now. As a venture capitalist, I run Sabah Fund, which is the first fund between MENA, Turkey, Central Asia, and Caucasus. We invest pre-seed to Series A, largely across fintech, digital health, edtech, and clean tech. We've done our first Uzbekistan deal since last summer, which is a company called TASVision, and we have a large number of Uzbek startups in our pipeline. And in terms of your question, what excites me most about this region, it's really the confluence of three things: the demographics, the strategic positioning, and the potential. In terms of demographics, you've got a young population with a strong STEM heritage in the region. In terms of strategic location, ideally located between very important regions of the world. And then the last side of things is really the upside potential. You have a lot of there's a arbitrage opportunity when it comes to valuations and getting in early into the right startups and helping them scale to become regional and local winners, then global giants later on. So we're really excited by the potential of the startup ecosystem here, the technical talent here in particular, and the new relations between countries in the region as well. So leveraging that cross-border connectivity between these markets.
We have to pass the microphone, so let's pass it down the row. And Mahmad, I would love to hear something that builds on that, which is you've got experience here as well. Tell us an introduction of yourself and the big why.
Yeah, the big why is really big. So thank you for having us. This is my first time in Tashkent. But before coming to Tashkent, we already invested in Uzbek startup. So we already started to enjoy the Uzbek founders' background and performance. So this time I would like to discover more founders that potentially will come our portfolio company. So our company is started 3 years ago as a venture fund, first venture fund of Azerbaijan. Now co-investing with Abbas as well. And Michael remembers Azerbaijan 10 years ago. He came to Azerbaijan probably, I don't know about his feelings, but thanks God we have now VCs around, startups around, lots of government programs. And regarding your question, why to invest in Eurasia, because I'm technically in these lands, I present in these lands. This is first why, the big why, because I lived here. I believe in these people surrounding me. And we did few good returns from the investments as well. So commercially, we are also happy with initial returns. Not with the fund, but as an angel, as some program graduates already made small exits. So we believe in these people that they can make us richer as well. That's the biggest why.
Okay, this is going to be a great panel because now Michael gets to say how you actually enjoy that experience, and we are here to witness your response to that. So introduce yourself, but we'd love to hear your talk about that as well.
Yeah, it's very intense. I haven't seen Mamad in like 10 years, so it's good to see him again. Good morning, good morning, everyone. My name is Michael. I'm a partner at Golden Gate Ventures. Again, thanks to IT Park and WebSummit for hosting this panel and having us here. Golden Gate Ventures, I'll keep it brief. We're an early stage VC fund between Singapore and the Middle East. In Asia, we manage about 4 funds, 300 million AUM. We launched our MENA fund in Qatar about a year and a half ago, so that fund focuses predominantly on the Middle East. Personal background, so I've been an operator founder myself very long time ago, a partner with the fund since about 12 years. I'm also a chairman for the Right to Consumer Foundation, and I'm a board member of the International Advisory Board for Rotterdam. On the why, maybe a few things. I think the first one is us as fund managers, we need to find our unfair advantage. And I think it's our job to explore new markets and make sure that we invest in emerging founders. And I think Central Asia is the place to be right now and sort of understand the landscape and spend time. I'm also very proud to see a big delegation from Qatar, visiting this week, and I know that we spoke at a few events earlier this week as well. Rasma Ventures is here, Doha Tech Angels. So I think the fact that you now are seeing the Qatar ecosystem also spending time here, that is a sign that there's things to be done here. So I'm happy to explore, I'm happy to meet, happy to speak to the ecosystem.
Okay, well, I have one thing I want to comment on that Mamad said that I think is really a very important theme that makes me think a lot about our collective why. Because what you said, I believe in the people. And there are so many places we go where the numbers look very similar. But believing in the people is a theme that I want to come back to because that feels to be exciting. And also, Michael, what you just said about there's something about you look around a room and you say, oh, there's another person from Qatar. Something is happening. And so I also want to think about that theme. Okay, what's your introduction and what is your big why?
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Imtiaz. I'm from the UK, but I'm currently based in Berlin. I'm investing for a fund called Heartfelt. We are a first check and pre-seed fund, investing across Europe, across the US and the UK, and we're sector agnostic. Been an investor for several years, started from pre-seed all the way to IPO across the world. The big why, so I think without repeating any of the other points, as investors we look at growth. We look at startups which are growing quickly. This kind of indicates or provides signals about momentum. This kind of piques our interest. And I think the same can be applied on a geographical ecosystem lens. Again, I think it was mentioned, fastest growing ecosystem in Central Asia, second highest, I think, overall. That alone should mean that VCs, fund managers take notice. And the why, sitting in Berlin, although I go back and forth between London and Berlin, I think we've had, decades of strong growth in Western Europe, in the US, and, also in Eastern Europe. And I don't think, looking forward, if you are a fund, this is my view, very much focused on a specific geography, that you will really stand out going forward. So I think a fund needs to be looking beyond the existing mandate that they have for future funds, future regions. And I think the big why is, I think there is always a window of opportunity to be a first mover, to be one of the early helpers within the ecosystem, and I think that time is now. I don't think there are any other German-based funds which have actually been to Uzbekistan. I think we are the first. So, yeah, this is the why.
Okay, so is it okay if I challenge you back for a second? Yeah. We could be comfortable and spar a bit.
Absolutely.
Okay, now we only have one microphone, so I'll have to spar one at a time. Okay, so you could take that as a double-edged sword. Sometimes first movers, like we're the only Germans here, might be that there's a good reason that they're not here. Okay, so talk about why they might not be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first thing is, you could be investing from a certain geography and you're used to the nuances of that geography, right? So one is mandate. You can't invest outside a certain area. That makes sense. But I think moving beyond that, you become comfortable in a certain area, in a certain geography, you build up competency and expertise. If you are considering other geographies, there are clear risks. One is jurisdiction risk, so legal risk. Another is, there's risks around the kind of lack of knowledge around the ecosystem, the culture, how to, deal in that business environment. So, those are the obvious points there. But then going back to this kind of first mover, I think you have to already start spending time way early on before you even get to a point where that becomes comfortable. And I think those steps to then starting to mitigate the risks or decrease how you see those risks starts much earlier on. Yeah.
Okay, only because we have one microphone, we're going to have to kind of pass it down this way. Michael, I'd love to hear...
Can I just add one thing?
Please.
I 100% agree. I think as early stage investors, and it doesn't matter if you're an angel investor or a VC manager, you have the obligation to find markets. And it does mean that, you're now currently the only German fund spending time here. That often leads to more funds following. And we've seen this in other ecosystems, right? So when we launched our fund in Singapore in 2011, there were hardly sort of any VCs on the ground. I think to date, the number is around 375 managers in Singapore. Go back a decade ago, it was a handful of managers. So I think that you kind of need these sort of first movers to open this market. Go back and do education as well. So we go back to our respective home markets and tell about the amazing week we had here, and that they should be coming back and look at deals and look at companies. So as managers, we have to kind of take this bit of a risk, I would say, in exploring these new markets as well.
Okay, so I'm going to swear back for a second before we pass the microphone. So earlier today, I heard a couple of things that I want to tie into this. One is, there are certain elements that you look for. Someone was mentioning like a disruptive technology. That's not everybody's philosophy. One would say that there's enough infrastructure to mitigate risk. If you don't have enough of the contracts in place and the government, you really don't dare go into those markets. So first movers have to deal with a bit of ambiguity, uncertainty, and risk that might also be places where not everyone's prepared to go. So Michael, just address that for a minute, and then we'll pass the microphone down.
Yeah, it's very true. So when you go into these ecosystems at a relatively early stage, I'll go back to my unfair advantage. A few things that you kind of see earlier. You have to go through the pain maybe of legislation, framework, regulatory, cross-border financing, etc. But once you kind of take that pain, where you have an opportunity is getting these founders really early into your viewpoint, being able to work with these founders very early on, understanding where they are struggling as they are growing their business. I think for us as managers, you're trying to sort of add value as much as you can to the companies that you invest in. And if you understand that the risk that they're taking, and if you have kind of gone to the risk to an extent yourself as a fund manager, one, it makes the relationship much better with the founders that you're investing in, but it gives you a much better understanding of the challenges that they have and where you can be adding value. So to give an example, when it comes to companies from Central Asia looking into expansion into other markets, understanding this landscape for us as managers is key. So we have to kind of go through the pain ourselves, learn ourselves as well, for us being able to advise these founders on where to focus on and where to be helpful.
Okay, I have a question before we pass the mic. What's the one question someone will ask you when you get back and say, okay, what were you doing there and why should we care? What's the one question someone will ask you about the time you're spending here?
Well, the first question I get is there a direct flight? But beyond that question, the second question is really around always, which founders have you met? We always get questions around the founders that we meet. And I really want to preface this, we like all of us as VCs, managers, investors, spend a lot of time traveling around and the ecosystem. For us, it is all about meeting founders. And that's the question I'm going to get when I'm heading back home is, which founders did you meet and how good are they?
Okay, pass the mic because this takes the red thread about people. I'm not going to ask you to answer the same question because the format will be more interesting if I ask you a different question. Here it comes. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, it's a scary question.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Spotlight story. Can you tell us one story of your personal experience with this region in the concept of investment? What's your spotlight story so that you can say, once upon a time, we what?
So once upon a time, when I was in Lithuania, like far from this region, I met one Kazakh guy, and he pitched to me. Then at that time, I didn't have money. I didn't have fund, like resources. So I said, I will help you with the connections, with intros. So I helped him. And like 3 years later, we met with him in Almaty. And he was enjoying his progress with his product. He was based now in Qatar or Dubai. I may forget it. So we met with him, and there was some pitch competition. This stuff is happening there. And he said, I met one Kazakh guy. I want to introduce him to you. And we met with him just like 3 days later. We wired his first check, like first institutional investment. And now he's the best one, like in our portfolio.
Wait. The same guy who pitched you randomly in Lithuania?
Yeah, no.
No.
He introduced to a new opportunity.
Oh.
Because we missed him, like,
okay.
because he was like now in late stage, now he's not, he like different ticket sizes. But from a sudden we have a new guy in the, like in the scene. That's, like that's the thing happening in these events or in these visits, trips. So you never expect to whom you are going to invest the next day. So maybe you're based in Baku, like whole day, someone is pitching to you, but you are investing someone who pitched like in Lithuania, then introduced to someone in Almaty. Like this geography is always, so I have different stories like that, many of them. But like I want to add something to your like previous question, like the risk moments when you are first in the market. So we asked this question like many times to Silicon Valley investors. Even once I remembered, I asked this question to Guy Kawasaki, why you are not investing, for example, in our region? Like you ask, why Germans are not here, yes? So he said, like, I have a lot of opportunity to lose my money in America.
Wait.
You see the contradiction here? I have a lot of opportunity to lose, like in US. So like, or even they have investors, they say, I only invest in driving distance. So it means LA is the maximum for them. So this is like very different, like, for the investors from Europe, from US. So to be a very global investor, it's very hard. So you can't imagine how it is like hard to us, like when you are in the early stage. It's all about emotional and people think,
So interesting. Okay, I love that line. We have a lot of opportunity to lose our money in the United States. I will take that back to my country and share that that's an impression that we would have. So rather than just answering the same question, you have experience here. You actually did the panel here last year, didn't you?
Yep.
Okay, so let's move the conversation forward. Jump into the most provocative thing you can possibly share with us.
Related to the topic, or?
Completely related to the topic. But when we talk about a spotlight story, what is a real experience that was like your aha moment where you suddenly thought very differently about the topic of why investing in Central Asia?
So going to the most provocative thing, I think we place too much emphasis in emerging markets on Western investors, international investors, particularly the US, putting them on a pedestal. You don't have to look at that market as the market to go to. Everyone tries to replicate Silicon Valley, trying to do it in a version in another country decades later compared to unique circumstances that happen in Silicon Valley. You need to have a fit for purpose ecosystem strategy for each country and each market that you're in, rather than trying to replicate what was done before. When it comes to international investors, when you have success stories and more visibility, they'll come. If you look at the MENA region, Michael mentioned Singapore. If you look at MENA, Sequoia, Kleiner Perkins, Tier 1 funds started doing their first deals in the last 3-4 years, after they saw successful deals like the exit of Careem to Uber, Souk.com to Amazon, etc. So those will come once you have success stories. But in the meantime, rather than chasing after foreign money that, as Imtiaz mentioned, they don't always have the mandate to be able to invest here, try and empower the local managers, empower the local startups as much as possible to make sure that you have those early success stories that then foreign capital will follow. In terms of a personal story, I think one of the best examples, we spoke about the importance of people. As a VC, your job is to be a talent scout. One of the best examples is the number of startups and diaspora founders or founders from this region entering programs, raising money abroad, success stories, etc., including Y Combinator, for example. So there is a story that there's a 17-year-old school kid called Alan Rakhmatazanov, who out of Kazakhstan. His first pitch to us was in his headmaster's office at high school.
Wait. You have to say that again. His first pitch was where?
From his headmaster's office to high school. He missed his maths class to come pitch to us online.
No, incredible.
This guy had built, this was his second startup by age of 17. He just turned 18. This guy managed to cold email a dozen YC CEOs to become customers. He was building his startup in Kazakhstan on his own as a solo founder. He said, I want to drop out of high school and I want to move. He ended up getting into first Entrepreneur First in Paris, dropped out of that. Entrepreneur First London, dropped out of that. Raised from Local Globe, who led their round. Local Globe is the top early stage fund in the UK and Europe. Then he got into Y Combinator. His valuation uptick's been over 5 times since he offered it to us, and now is just graduated from YC as an 18-year-old now. And this is showing the power. You don't have to have restrictions thinking about where am I based. He had a business out of high school as a 17-year-old in Kazakhstan, but managed to reach out to people on the other side of the world, sell to them, and move not just to one country, 2 different markets, ticked off Europe, already went to the US type thing. And it shows the power of the resources that you have at your fingertips as a founder. It doesn't matter that, okay, the capital might not be here for later stage funding, you can get local funding, etc. He decided, actually, I don't want to raise locally. I want to go straight away, challenge myself on the global stage, and put myself up against people in ecosystems that he has no experience of. He'd never been to San Francisco before, he'd only heard of it. This was his first time going there, going through the program. And he's not the only story, or success story of this, like this. You've had numerous examples. And what will be really important, I think the missing piece here, is showcasing these stories better and talking about them more at events like this and international arenas, so more and more people pay attention. For every success story like that, you'll have more and more people who are starting to think, okay, maybe I'll look at this region, maybe I'll invest. And that's how it started in any other region, whether it was Europe decades ago, Singapore, Middle East, etc. in the last few years. That's how you scale ecosystems.
Okay, so that's my mic drop story. Like, that story is something that we can all bring home. And it's an unbelievable story for a couple of reasons. First of all, anybody over 18 in the audience? Okay, we're complete losers. It's too late for us because we have not been able to reach that bar. But the second thing that's so interesting is what you're going to optimize for in this market. Because, my experience, when I moved to Silicon Valley in 2013, there was a thing. Now I'm working in Boston, there's a thing. The thing in Boston is different from the thing in Silicon Valley. And guess what? One would not work in the other. Now I'm working in Africa in 172 different universities in the continent. And you can't just take what works in Boston and put it in Africa. It's not going to happen. And here in Central Asia, the same thing. You cannot cookie cutter. Someone was saying earlier, cutting and pasting. You can't do that. It's not the formula to cut and paste. So that's brilliant. And also a little depressing, to be honest, that I'm, where was I at 17? What was I doing? I mean, let's compare our lives to that. MT, I'm going to give you this microphone and then we can pass down. It's kind of like a logistics thing. I want you to be able to tell a spotlight story. I think that what Abbas just said, that if we can share a story that crystallizes what the possibilities are, it's a powerful way for all of us to go home and share the excitement about the region. So, what's a spotlight story?
Does it have to be related directly to Central Asia, or can it be? Anything. Okay, so the reason why I'm in VC, in tech, why I think what's shaped my career the most is seeing and being involved in the development of the Chinese ecosystem. So I moved to China in 2010 to understand on behalf of the British Prime Minister what is happening in emerging markets like China. What was incredible is from 2010 to just up to the pandemic, how quickly I saw an entire country change, how I saw an ecosystem develop, experiencing it on a personal level, but also seeing it more widely. So my first experience when I moved in 2010 was my phone was a brick. It could do one thing and make a call, sometimes successfully. I remember using wired internet connections to plug into my laptop, having to use VPNs, which did not work, and really struggling because I did not speak Chinese at the time. Within 5 years, I remember, so I was there every year for 10 years, and within 5 years, all of the issues I had in 2010 did not exist anymore. So I used WeChat, so a super app connecting me to getting taxis, food, other people. I was able to immediately start ordering things via e-commerce. I also saw how people's lives would change because you have the infrastructure being developed and then more people coming to the cities and who you were engaging with and the energy there. So this for me is also like the energy I felt there is what I can also sense in other ecosystems now. I was in Riyadh in February. I could feel this energy there. There's this change happening. It's happening much quicker. I was in Tashkent in June, so this is my second time. And even in the 3-4 months since I was here, I can still start to feel that same energy that I did back in 2010 to 2020 that I saw in China. So I've seen firsthand how quickly things can change. I've seen how quickly ecosystems can change. And I think the most important takeaway for me in those 10 years was how linked up the education sector are, policymakers are, business leaders are, and consumers are. And I'm already getting that sense over here. And so when the first time I came here, I went back to Berlin, I was like, guys, Uzbekistan. And I wasn't just talking for the food. I was talking about the energy that I feel here and all of the steps which are taking place together.
So I'm going to ask Michael, we're going to just kind of move forward. So I would love us to get to what I call tough love. So we've talked about the excitement. We also are people who have been around the world working for many years. And there are some probably tough love realities that you only get one chance to share on a panel like this. Anything you'd like to recommend in terms of mitigating risk or accelerating progress that is a bit of advice to the ecosystem here?
Sure. I would like to come back, so I'm not sure how forceful I can be, but
yeah. This is like improv. Go for it.
No, just kidding.
I think are we among friends? Is it okay if we give some feedback?
Sure.
You got it.
Yeah. So I think a lot of the managers have been saying the same, but I want to emphasize on one thing: like ecosystems do not exist without having strong founders to back, and it is not said enough. So I want to make sure that everyone is aware that although we like to focus on the numbers and we like to focus on how many deals have we had seed, or how many incubation programs have we launched, or how many founders have we attracted from foreign countries to the country. Investors don't come back if you don't have backable founders. That's how simple life is. Our job is to find the best founders, invest in them, support them, and hopefully make an amazing return. That's how simple it is. I want to make sure that when you look at the founder community, that it is supported sufficiently enough for them to graduate from being an early stage founder to becoming a late stage founder. We tend to focus a lot of our time on just looking at the numbers. We have 1,000 seed founders or 1,000 pre-seed founders. That's amazing. How are they getting from pre-seed to seed? How are they getting from seed to Series A? And I think Sumaya said it earlier in the panel. We look at execution. And then to your point, this founder that's found his own way to the Bay Area, like those are the nuggets that you need. So once you have these stories here, amplify them 1,000 times. That's the only way that the ecosystems work. I would like for the general either the regulators or legislators to move away from just focusing on sort of the top of the funnel numbers and focus on the heroes, the graduation stories, and what led to that graduation.
What did you say? The heroes? Say it again. The heroes?
The heroes, that graduation stories.
Graduation stories.
And what led to that graduation.
What led to the graduation story. You know, it's interesting because the presentation we saw a minute ago showed exactly that, right? It was like, I started here, I did this, my progress was this way, et cetera, et cetera. And it was my first time reading that story, and it was crystal clear to me how to, first of all, how the progress went, how acceleration was fed, and also what the path beyond that might look like. So from an investable perspective, it looked like a path that I could perhaps tell back to other investors as, you know, what that story's about. And you're right, it's not just a point in time, it's what's accelerating the progress, and will this region reach escape velocity? And it's in competition with the whole world. Okay, let's do a bit of insight from you in terms of, what I'd really love to hear is, what's one thing you would tell the region to amplify, to accelerate, or to reach scale, you know, to get to that next level? What's one thing, one word of advice?
Maybe unifying or become more homogeneous market, because still we say Central Asia as a whole, but we don't see it as a whole, because when we talk about fintech, you need extra licensing. It's not like in Europe, for example, you opened, you got license from Estonia and you do business in 40 countries, I don't know, 25 countries. So this unifying the geography will be the first thing in front of maybe governments, you know, like, because even though we are not homogeneous, very heterogeneous now as a market, I think these geopolitical risks or conditions will unite our startup ecosystem as well, because otherwise the big guys like big markets will destroy it, or will not make able us to create our own story. Like Caucasus, Central Asia, these are like, seems like together, but they are not together actually in most of the cases. So we have to have this common, I don't know how to call it or how to name it, this pipeline stuff, or maybe regulatory issues. And maybe Turkey will be like the leading, having leading position in that, unifying the geography. So these are like my maybe fantasies, or maybe it will be reality in the future, because otherwise small countries with own regulatory issues, it's very hard.
Okay, so this is actually super important, because I know in conversations that we had in preparation and thinking about this, it's not a small thing. When we talk about what will make a region win, it used to be individual founders only. You know, you could get one individual founder working in like a Nordic, and you get one unicorn, and it leads to another unicorn. What you were just saying is profound, that it's the ability for us to look at a region truly as a region. If you can't have currency exchange cross-border, if you can't get logistics cross-border, if you don't have interoperability, if you have really backwards ways and too much friction, it is not an ecosystem. It's a broken set of interconnected but not smoothly connected individual players.
Yeah,
so that's really profound.
Yeah, I mean, if we look to MENA region, like the cases like with Uber and Karim, so if it was in just Dubai, it will not go to that valuation, and Uber will not be always like interested to buy it. So you have to be at least, I don't know, but 7, 8 countries, and to be seen as a global. So we need these cases in our region as well.
Okay, I would love to hear the perspective of one, well, your perspective on this, and then we'll do the lightning round, where everyone can talk about one takeaway for the startups and or for the investors.
Yeah, I think the key thing that will change the ecosystem is more regional integration, not just in terms of regulatory regimes, but also in terms of how startups expand. So rather than trying to go straight away to become to compete with your peers in the US or in Europe with much less funding, much less knowledge of that market, look at, okay, how can I go to neighboring countries? How can I go to MENA? How can I go to Turkey, etc., and compete in those markets first before you then go and try and become a player internationally in the US or Europe? I think from a regulator perspective, and not even regulator side, I think in terms of technoparks and ecosystem perspective, the way to support founders is to improve the integration between markets and help create soft landing programs. So if you're a startup from Azerbaijan or from Uzbekistan, for example, you want to go to Kazakhstan or Turkey or MENA, making that process as easy as possible for you to go there, meet the right people, be connected with investors, be connected with any regulators, be connected with access to co-working spaces, that type of thing. So it's as smooth as possible an expansion process for you, rather than having to do it alone. And once you start doing that for a few different companies, you create this flywheel effect where it's almost replicable. So you have this essentially conveyor belt pipeline of, hey, here's your startup, you've got into this MRR, this ARR, now it's time for you to expand here. Then you expand there, etc. We'll support you. This is how we've done it for XYZ previously. So I think that will really change things beyond just every country seeing themselves as their own bubble. And yes, every country will invest in their own ecosystem. But I think if we can invest more in the collaboration between the markets, that will be the real game changer.
Okay, our lightning round is going to be like this. I'm going to do a real quick wrap to let you get one thing, because it's hard to think one thing. I'm talking to get you ready. You can either say something you learned from the other people, because hopefully we all learned something. That's my favorite topic. Or something to let the region think about as a next step, just the quick lightning round. But I'd like to do a quick summary because we'll do the lightning round. I'm going to hand the microphone here. We'll go 2 people, and then there are 2 people, and we'll end with Abbas. Okay, so what I've heard so far is it's about people, which I think is really amazing. We've all come here to meet people. We are looking for founders that light us up. It's like they're onto something, and you can feel it. The visceral energy of meeting with government and understanding the intention of the regulatory system, the legal system to support this. And the other thing is what we go home and talk about. Is this a region that we should feel excited about, and what it is that we can control? And also, to me, what I've learned is that 17-year-olds are going to have a lot of huge contributions to the future of this world, and I'm all for it. So in a growth region where there's so much youth, I mean, thank goodness you're going to make the world a way better place. So that's my takeaway. I'd love to hear your takeaway.
Yeah, and so I think I'll choose that second option, which is what would I say to the region? And I'd say there is a clear momentum here, and it's to make sure that you are capitalizing on this period by having wonderful events like this. And I say this because, so in Berlin, for example, the Berlin government, the mayor is trying to understand how can they continue to draw startups to a market like Berlin, which is already mature. And now they are organizing events with other organizations like GuideTex, etc. You can never rest on your laurels when you are trying to grow as an ecosystem market. And so for me, it's say, use this momentum, continue being able to tell the story, and don't get too complacent, basically.
Yeah, for me, this is this is for and about the founders, and I really want to emphasize it's not a bad thing to be scrappy as a founder. I know that we often look at VC as it has to be part of your life cycle. It really doesn't. We're here obviously to do our job and invest in amazing companies. But I've met so many founders who are scrappy, have built an amazing business on their own, who are not a unicorn but have an amazing life. And I want to leave you guys with one example. There was a time where e-commerce enabling companies was a very big thing in Asia, and there was a founder in Singapore, heavily under the radar, built an amazing team, never raised a single dollar. And at the height of sort of the e-commerce enabling sector ecosystem, he was able to sell his company for $200 million with 100% ownership, gave his management team a big share of it, never raised a single dollar. And everyone was focused on how did he manage to build this? And he was just insanely heads down, focused on execution and getting things done. And I think that these stories need to be celebrated as well.
Yeah, maybe 2 takeaways from my side, from investor perspective. So one is I see here in Uzbekistan, like in Azerbaijan, government resources are being outsourced to third parties, like private-led investors or programs. That's good side, you know, like the expertise is different, and so the government relies on these private companies is very essential. And second one is maybe, I think we as investors should really cooperate for this region, because we are not able always to come to Uzbekistan or Kazakhstan. We don't have like footprints here, for example. In our case, maybe we will cooperate with Domino Ventures, maybe they will work with us in Azerbaijan. So this cooperation is really essential. Maybe that will be very helpful for the investors, because otherwise it is very hard for scouting and, you know, like making good decisions.
So I want to speak to the founders in the room. I think, having spoken to many of them in the last few days and in the past, I think one of the key things in an ecosystem like this is to understand the venture capital model and what investors are looking for and how funds work. The minute you raise institutional money, you're essentially starting the clock. VC funds need to deliver a certain return within a certain period of time to their investors. Founders that might not suit the journey of the business they want to go on. It might end up pushing them to a direction they don't want to go into, or they might not be ready to start that clock yet. So as Michael said, there are other forms of funding. You don't have to go to VC straight away. You can bootstrap, you can go to angels, you can, in certain markets in the region, there's crowdfunding, there's different opportunities where you can try and build a business without having to do that Silicon Valley story or VC. And I'm saying that as an investor. Like, it's not for everyone trying to do that hockey stick growth journey. And a lot of people chase that kind of Hollywood version of that startup journey. Second thing I'd say is, in terms of investors, you're essentially looking at waves of innovation. Right now, there's this whole AI hype, and I think it's taken us almost 45 minutes to say AI for the first time in this panel, which is a record. Normally, it comes up much earlier. But Andy Radcliffe, co-founder of Benchmark Capital, legendary investor, famously said that success in venture capital is about backing surfers, not waves. Because on every wave of innovation, you're going to have thousands of surfers leading that wave. The best founders are those who are finding the next wave, not at the back of the first wave. So one of the challenges I see in emerging markets is you get a lot of founders looking at, oh, what works in the West? Can I copy that? Can I just bring a local version of that? And in any ecosystem, that's usually the first generation of that ecosystem. It was the same in MENA, same in Southeast Asia, etc. But for the ecosystem to grow, you need to start building solutions for your market and trying to build something innovative rather than just like, can I create a copycat of something in other markets? So try and think about problems you're seeing day to day, what's broken in this market, what can be fixed, etc., and build something rather than looking at, oh, can I create a clone of an existing business? You can make money doing that. You know, look at all the ride-sharing apps, but at the same time, try and think a bit more innovatively, because that's really where you'll get a source of differentiation and actually be able to stand out in an international market rather than just being like, oh, I'm XYZ for this region. So that's the final word of advice I'd say to founders, and yeah. Thank you.
So much, guys. Thanks so much. Great session. Thank you so much for that very interesting session where we heard some amazing stories. We do have one more amazing keynote to hear from next, where we'll learn how to future-proof companies. Amy Peck is a venture partner, angel investor, and global advisor who works with leading organizations and governments. And she is going to be keynoting on how AI, XR, and IoE affects and enhances a company's future. So welcome to the stage.
Thank you so much. So is the next unicorn here in the room? With a show of hands, clap. Who's our next unicorn? Come on. I know you're in here. All right. Actually, you can put that to the side, like over to the side. Can you put this here? This here, right here. Sorry, we're just doing a little stage direction. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So we've been talking a lot about ecosystem, but we haven't really talked about corporates and corporate innovation because it's very relevant to this entire ecosystem, right? As startups, these are your customers. So we're going to talk about AI, XR, and IoE, the Internet of Everything. You got my clicker? And, you know, it's coming, right? But I would argue that it's here, this tsunami of emerging technology. And why do we care about this? Right? Why is this important? Well, there are three really simple reasons why we need to understand the landscape of emerging technology, even beyond AI, XR, and IoE. So technology will, one, for corporates, right, improve your operations and processes, and actually for startups as well. It'll improve your products and services, and it will disrupt your entire industry. And innovation cycles are moving faster and faster and faster. And the barrier to entry with these technologies is getting higher and higher. And what that means is that if you're not working with these technologies to build a fluency today, it's going to be much harder to introduce it, integrate it into your processes. And again, one of you is here, right? The startup that will disrupt your entire industry is already born. It's probably already funded, and hopefully right here. So I have several slides here talking about the top emerging technologies that we need to pay attention to. The reason I have three of them is just to show that this was 2023, this was 2024, right? So there's some similarities, but then there's some newcomers. But it's just the beginning, right? This is another set. So it doesn't really matter how we think about these new technologies. What we have to do is have at least a cursory understanding of this landscape. It changes, it shifts, there's opinions on which are the important ones. You're going to know which ones are going to be important to your company, but you have to have a much broader vision. The good news is you don't have to know everything about all these technologies, just a little bit. Can we get the sound? This does have very cool music. So what we're talking about here, and if we had some sound, we're looking at digital twins, again, IoT, how all of this always-on, two-way data stream is available consistently. And they're talking about as well a term that I don't love, which is metaverse, but the industrial metaverse, and how all of these technologies are combining to make our lives easier, make our lives better. I would sing the soundtrack, but you really don't want that to happen, I promise. It'll be way off key.
Everything modeled in the metaverse mirrors the status.
Could we
of
just
the
restart it
twin,
quickly?
including
Do you
the
mind?
interactions and relations between everything else. Imagine our world today. People, vehicles, factories, entire cities, and the billions of devices that connect us to this world and to each other. This is the physical world. But what if we can replicate that physical world into its digital twin? A digital twin that is bound to the physical world in real time, that we can experience in mixed reality, that we can collaborate with, that we can run simulations on and find what is important to us, that we can apply AI to learn, predict, and act, to save time and money, to reduce carbon, to preserve natural resources, to improve safety, to bring us all closer. This is already happening today. Across the world, organizations are taking advantage of this new wave of innovation that trends to an interconnectedness that enables the metaverse. Everything modeled in the metaverse mirrors the status of its physical twin, including the interactions and relations between everything else. By applying the power of the cloud, we eliminate boundaries of what this can do. The potential is limitless.
All right, I'm glad that came back on.
Imagine our...
So I have a lot of clients who come and say, we need to start implementing AI. And before that, it was, do we need a chief metaverse officer? Before that, it was like, do we need to be working with cryptocurrency? And the answer is not a technology-first solution, right? Why are we leading with the technology? With this landscape of technology, it's really the convergence of all of these technologies that are going to enable these solutions of the future. And we saw that in that last video. Ooh, wow, we moved very quickly. Avert your eyes. So how do we prepare for this future? So one of the challenges is that we're equating innovation with solving problems. But that just results only in incremental improvement, right? So we take something we already know how to do, we do it a little bit better, a little bit faster, a little bit less expensively. But we have to take exponential leaps as well. So how we work is with parallel paths of innovation. So one is what is important today, right? Corporates have their corporate board, they have their investors that they have their customers that they are beholden to. So it's very, very important for them to maintain that trajectory of growth. But without the secondary path, which is a much more visionary path, they're not going to maintain their position on the global stage in the global markets. So it's not just what will tomorrow bring, it's how are we going to live tomorrow. And that's from a very personal standpoint. It doesn't necessarily have to be about business. Then you build that path towards your future vision, and we leverage this multitude of technology as a toolkit to pave the path to that future vision. So this is sort of the practical advice that we give to our corporate clients. And this is going to help startups to kind of peer behind the curtain and see how they're going to be working with their innovation strategies. So the first is to think like a startup, right? But use the muscle that they have as a global company with the resources that they have. They have to move their processes out of the way to enable this innovation. The second step is for them to create a visionary culture. Your R&D team is not your innovation hub. Ideas can come from anyone in the company, and you need to build a framework for everyone to be able to bubble up this new vision of the future. Third, build access with ecosystem and partners. You don't have to do this alone. Corporates need to be working with VCs or start their CVC arm, they need to be working with startups and accelerators. They need to be working with technology partners. And that de-risks the significant investment it takes into the future. And the last is really balancing the core business with future bets. And that's going to be down to the risk profile of each individual company. But if you're not making those future bets, like 52% of the Fortune 500 that were in the Fortune 500 in 2000 that are no longer there, you're going to be in that statistic. Okay, this is the interactive portion to see if you watch that video closely. By a show of hands, how many of you like that version of the future? All right. How many of you think that you could build a better future if you could architect it? All right. So we all need to get in this game. We all need to feel like we have agency in building this future. And the exercise we do with corporates, but I think it's valid for all of us, is to start with a blank canvas. And you are the architect of your own future. When you were 5, you had these crazy fantasies that didn't live in reality. You need to tap into that version of yourself and come up with the craziest ideas that would make you happy in the future. Pick like the year 2050, 2060 or beyond, and imagine your ideal day. You can be any form. You can live on any planet. You can have a cloak of invisibility. It doesn't matter. The further away from the truth, the better. And this isn't just folly about fantasizing and having fun. There is some science behind the fact that it opens up new neural pathways in your brain. And that actually helps you make all manner of decisions better, because it gives you a broader perspective with the things that are in front of you at any given moment. So once you create this, your own vision of the future, you give yourself a North Star. So I'll leave you with one of my favorite quotes, probably overused, but I still love it. The best way to predict the future is to create it. And if we do this, we collectively imagine a better future. The possibilities are infinite. So why don't we do that together? Thank you so much.
Much. For that keynote, Amy, and sorry for the technical struggle. Super interesting and a really important insight into how to future-proof not just your company, but yourself. I'm going to introduce now our final panel of the day, very excitingly. Our final panel will be on opportunities for global corporations in emerging IT markets. And this discussion will look at how major corporations can integrate technology solutions into their ecosystems while remaining closely connected to the startup community. So I'd like to welcome to the stage Eero, Ben, Walid, Kleena, and Matthew. If you can come and take to your seats.
Okay, so being the final one and the last one is not always that easy, so let's get a bit energized before we start. And I'll quickly want to start with thank yous and with the congratulations to the whole team that brought us all here, that brought so many VCs and so many stakeholders here in Tashkent, and to the great team that managed this whole coordination thing, because I myself also make this kind of events in Georgia and I know how hard it is. So congrats also on bringing this kind of new big brand to not only to Uzbekistan itself, but to the Central Asia, and thanks for spotlighting us as a region whole, our startups, our ecosystems, and let's applause for that to the team, right? Okay, so today we have talked a lot, I mean, other speakers have talked a lot about the emerging markets, and now most probably our main aim will be to very deep dive into the whole processes. There were even some questions that we're planning to ask here that I deleted in our file so that we didn't cross the paths. So we'll start with a quick intros with our speakers. I'll start super quickly. I'm Eero, I'm from Georgia. I'm the managing director of Axel, which is, well, one and only business angel network in Georgia, so we don't have any competitors, fortunately or unfortunately. We have invested in around 30 deals, 100 members. We're only 3 years old, and I do feel that we are the main place in Georgia where the startups can find the capital. So it's a big responsibility for me to be in that role and also to be representing Georgia here on the stage. I'll give floor to my speakers now to do the quick round of intros, and then let's go to the questions.
Hello everybody, I'm Ben Guerin, co-founder of a creative agency called Topham Guerin. Thank you. And what we do is we win hearts and minds. We've run 25 election campaigns around the world, from Boris Johnson through to Scott Morrison, the Australian Prime Minister. We work with national governments, including the government of Kazakhstan and the UAE, on some of their most interesting government campaigns. And we work with tech companies like Airbnb, Palantir, Spotify, Fujitsu. And we help them tell their story to achieve their objectives.
Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, you're all so kind. My name is Kleena Jordan. As you can see on one of the slides, I'm an early stage startup lead in Google, mainly focusing on our United Kingdom and Irish market. I'm coming at this panel kind of in two pillars. So one on the practical side with all of the work I do in Google, dealing with startups every day, mainly looking at pre-seed to Series A, all going into their tech stack and how they're building out the latest and greatest new AI, of course, companies. In the second prong, I've gone back to academia, and I am now studying in Harvard and going into a lot more of the emerging markets, as you've heard from today, is what it's all about. And I think we need to have a two-prong approach a lot of the time, and I always look at it as a dual degree in practicality and theoretical as well. So very excited to be joining you here and hopefully bringing in those two perspectives. Thank you.
Hello everyone. So as you can see up there, I'm Walid Barsali. It's funny because that was not the company I was supposed to represent, but it's fine. Let's start with that. It's all good. I'm a little bit schizophrenic because I have 3 hats, basically. So the first one that you see over there is the startupper hat. So Ball Squad is basically the biggest marketplace for sports in Poland. We are across 250 cities, and now we are expanding to local markets, but this is not what I came to speak about. The second one is that I'm the managing director of WebAllian Asia, which is a general IT consulting firm that opened its branch in IT Park about 6 months ago. And so I'm very happy each time to come back and to see that everything is growing. A couple of buildings right there 6 months ago, they were not here, you know, and then everything is going so fast. And the last role that I have is the French Tech. So the French Tech is an international market network of entrepreneurs like myself that lead local communities, and there is 115 of them across 52 countries. And the idea of that is that entrepreneurship comes from the ground, and this is what we enable with the French Tech, but of course with the support of the state. And so I believe that IT Park and the local government are absolutely already doing that. So maybe thinking about French Tech Tashkent soon, yeah?
So unlike Walid, I just have one job. I'm the Chief Product Officer for Snunu, which is the super app built in Doha, Qatar. We currently offer 15 different verticals and services. Most recently, we announced a $240 million investment from Jahez, which puts us at a $320 million valuation, which is the largest non-oil and gas deal that's ever happened in Qatar. Outside of that, a little bit about myself. I've spent the last 15 years in product and tech, basically scaling and growing marketplaces in Canada, the United States, Europe, as well as Latin America with Rappi, and I think now in Qatar with Snunu. One of the themes of my career has basically been building startups where startups didn't exist before.
Logistics. No, there is another one. So
there's another one. Oh, it actually does work.
I'd like to start with the main question that I think in the startup ecosystem and the whole lean methodology and etc. is the main thing. And I think Emmy and a lot of other people today mentioned that question, which is why. But let's add a quick what to that too. So let's start. What is for you individually or from your corporation's perspective, for your company's perspective, is an emerging market itself? And why on earth would a corporation or a person be interested to either grow their companies here or do the talent acquisition here? So what is that important about the emerging markets? I myself am from the emerging market, so I won't be commenting on that, and I would be more than happy to hear your thoughts. Why and what?
Do you want to start? Yeah, sure. I'll start this one. So I can give a little bit of the story of Snunu's founding and background. So about 6 years ago, Hamad Al-Hadri, our founder, had the idea that he was going to build another food delivery app in Qatar. This was a market where there was currently Talabat with a 100% market share, complete monopoly. They're a global company that operates in dozens and dozens of countries and cities with billions of dollars behind them and very mature product and tech. And Hamad looked at this equation and said, I have no venture funding, I have no history of tech startups in Qatar, and I don't have a team or anybody around me, but I'm going to do this anyway. I'm going to see if I can build a competitor to this monopoly, well-established company. So his first iteration of it is he said, well, there's no actual product or engineering talent here today in Qatar, so I'm going to have to go around and find engineering talent from other companies. And his initial strategy was actually not a very good one, where he said, I'm going to scour the globe and find the absolute cheapest engineers that I can find anywhere, which led him to India, which has very, very good engineers, but not the ones that he used for version 1 of the product. And it came out as this completely unworkable, unusable mess. And he was close to basically giving up and saying, okay, maybe this wasn't a bad idea. And then his co-founder Sabina said, you know, there's actually a lot of these super apps and things like Kaspi, Yandex, and all of these emerging markets, and they have really good engineering and tech talent there. We should go look there, which is really the story of how the company ended up going and hiring some of its first engineers from Kazakhstan. Then we looked at Tajikistan, and now we're starting to look here and actually have a few employees in Tashkent. But what we found is extremely, extremely good, competent engineers and talents here that led to this success.
Yeah, there we are. I'll go next. I'll actually answer it slightly different or back to front. So I'll go firstly why I think, both personally and then on a corporate side, why we're focusing on emerging markets and why it's important to focus on emerging markets. This is more on the practical side, so my experience. It is the growth that we're looking for in terms of what is going to make a incremental change on the investment that we're taking, right? So there's loads of effectively low risk investments that we're constantly doing in any company that we're looking at. But then when we go into emerging markets, it's all about looking at the key KPIs of what is going to incrementally change the growth in the company and on the bottom line, right? And I think and Cartin at the very beginning was talking really directly to this in terms of the data points we're looking at, and they are where you need to be telling your story, which I'll pass over to Ben, who's much more capable of kind of going into what is your USP, your unique selling point on the global stage, which is really what I think you need to define clearly, crisply, and concisely, so that you have an overall one message of, right, why am I investing in Uzbekistan/Tashkent? One thing I just want to highlight and really dive into and why we're here, I think, in Tashkent, is that growth. So I was absolutely astounded with the growth metrics that Cartin was sharing earlier today. So we're looking at that 89.9% growth in Uzbekistan, and then that 132% growth across all of Central Asia. And that's really what the big corporates, I'm speaking from my side, obviously, in Google, are probably looking at. Additionally to that, they're kind of the softer APIs. So you can get those effectively through GDP, things like that. Other things that I would say many players, both in the corporate and on the public sides, where I'm coming from on the studies, you're looking at obviously the population growth, you're looking at a growth mindset as well, and I think that's where IT Parks comes in really strongly here, in terms of they are opening up the market to allow, to create a stage effectively, where Uzbekistan is able to play on this global market and take action on it. So I'm all about having the practical side, or all about, having the storytelling and the brand, but you need that bias for action behind you, and I think that is the engine that IT Parks are running. So I think that was probably a roundabout way of answering your question, but hopefully I answered. And I'll pass over to Ben, who I don't want to create your answer for you, but we were talking last night, and Ben is incredible at obviously creating stories, and I think that would be great place for you to come in, if you wouldn't mind.
It's a very high bar, but I'll try my best. Thank you. So my agency's worked in 40 countries. I've got offices in Sydney, New York, London, and Auckland. We've got an outsourced development team in the Philippines. I spend a lot of my time thinking about where opportunities are and how we can capitalize on them. I'm from a tiny country called New Zealand, or New Zealand as we say it, and when you're from New Zealand, everything is a global opportunity. Our very first client was in Qatar. Our second invoice that we ever sent was to Kazakhstan. I spent the first 3 years of running my company living out of a suitcase, basically. And the reason why I find emerging markets so fascinating is they have this incredible quality that you don't have in mature markets, and that's called economic growth. So, the economies in, the UK, across most of Europe and Australia and New Zealand have been basically stagnant for the last 10 to 15 years. People's living standards have often gone down, and at the very least, they certainly have plateaued. What we have here is this, and we've seen all the numbers, is this incredible, growth story. But I think more exciting than the numbers is the energy and optimism that you get in rooms like this. So the question of why emerging markets is, yes, there's talent, there's innovation, like Matt said about some of these super apps. The innovation is a great opportunity. But actually, I think it's the excitement and energy that creates opportunities for businesses like mine to do work here.
I guess I'm the last one. All right, so not from the corporate side, but I would say that, looking at the emerging markets can be for everyone that is looking, again, for growth, and for quick growth, because the idea, so I'm French, but I live in Poland for over a decade, and basically I'm running a Polish-French company that moves to Uzbekistan. So that came from the need from my startup, right? The same, just like you. At some point, you have the strong guys locally, but you need your products to get better, and you want to stop also paying crazy rates, right? Because COVID has done that, where we globalize the access to the talents, but it means that the guys with the big bucks, hello Google, right, have basically kind of screwed the market, right? So what happened is that, yeah, I'm very loud. So what happened is that looking at Tashkent was for us a way to improve our technology, but then afterwards, our general IT company was, okay, we have big clients, and those clients can actually benefit from the seniority we have in Poland, and we're delivering in Australia, in Canada, in the US, in Germany, but we still need to optimize the costs, because those guys, even though they have the big bucks, but they are also looking at the economics of their business. And looking at what the IT Park team that reached out and showed us what was available, then we understood that it was not just a matter of the talent that was available, but it was mostly about the will to keep pushing, right? And I think this is where the bottom line is that you can have the best universities, you can have, the most talented people, but if the mindset is not about constantly pushing, the boundaries of what your economy is able to do, but at the same time creating an environment where the government is supporting and allowing failure, right? That makes the whole difference, yeah? Because if you don't allow the failure, then you don't have that constant growth, because people will always be afraid to take the next step, right? And what it feels here is that on top of a very strong youth and very talented approach to their growth, there is that, okay guys, try it. If it goes bad, we're going to try again, right? And I think that's the only thing you can hope for anyone that wants to go to new markets and grow.
Thanks a lot, and Walid, I'll stay with you for a minute. So, as from La French Tech Warsaw, you are not only connecting two ecosystems, but are connecting way much more to each other. So, we foresee as Central Asia, Caucasus, and this whole region as a united one. And usually, Georgia is a very small market, 3.5 million. So, whenever investors ask us like why they should be investing in our portfolio, we say that they are not operating on Georgian market at all. Some of them start from Uzbekistan right away, from Kazakhstan right away, or even outside of our region, right? So the main thing about the startups and IT companies is to scale as fastly as possible, what I think all of us try to do with our own companies. So the question is, what a quick advice would be for the countries in the Central Asia, in Caucasus, how they can collaborate from your perspective and from your experience. And plus, as far as I know, that's government-enabled program, right? And maybe we can also bring in the role of not only one government, of different kind of governments collaborating with each other.
So I will take the question reverse, right? So I will just explain the genesis of how the French Tech, has appeared worldwide. So French Tech is 115 communities across the world, is in 52 countries. It's all led by local entrepreneurs like myself, so it means that the entrepreneurs that are at the helm of that have to be very well penetrated in the ecosystem. And you don't create penetration in the ecosystem if you don't try things and fail and try again and so on and so forth. So to be able to create, first of all, such a support system, you need the guys that are basically leading that they should have smashed their face on the wall a couple of times, right? So they're actually able to clear the deck for the others, right? So that's the first aspect. And then we support about 6,000 startups across this network, and we never sell the French market. So in Warsaw, I always take off the word French from it, right? Whenever there is someone that is coming and saying, oh, listen, I would like to, use your network, to see what are my capacities. So we're like, okay, where do you want to go in the world, right? Paris is not, where you need to go. It might be a strong, a little bit of a tough market to penetrate when you're not ready. Maybe you want to go somewhere else. And this is what the government has enabled, right? Governments sometimes do some good stuff, right? And this one did it. It was basically to say, let's give them some budget, let's give them some capacities and some structure, and the entrepreneurship should come from the ground, should come from the soldier on the top, and not from the micro, on the top, trying to take decision down. So I think for Central Asia, it's very much that. You need a leading country doing that. Because you see that right now in Europe, what is happening is that we are talking about Europe tech. We're not talking anymore just about, edge ecosystem. We're saying, okay, we need to create a Europe tech to be able to compete against those two giants that are on both sides of the aisle, right? And for that, you need one example that works. And in Europe, the only example that works for over a decade of a network of startups and entrepreneurs that are actually pushing the limits is the French tech. So therefore, when Central Asia will be looking at that push, most probably they will be looking at Uzbekistan and we say like, okay, this is what it's working. So this model is working. Let's then replicate it across the borders. And this is exactly what is happening to France, to Europe. It took them 13 years to get to this point, right? But with the speed that we're seeing here, maybe twice less.
Thank you. Ben, quickly jumping to you about Matthew, sorry, with the names, Matthew. Quickly jumping with the question about Snunu. So we also discussed that on the call that we had. We have a lot of startup founders here, and I think we have all heard, well, for those people who go through the agenda and to try to search who the people are that are speaking, most probably they would see the big deal coming up whenever you Google Snunu. So even though that might not be right away the subject of our talk here, I still want to want you to tell us super shortly about how that all happened, but maybe from that perspective, like how did Snunu manage to climb that ladder with the corporate guy that was that played the main role in the deal to close the deal of 245 million USD, if I'm right, yeah? So tell us the story about that. And also from their perspective, what was the thing that they liked in Snunu and helped you that much in the process?
Yeah, that's a really hard question, so I'm happy for Ben to take it. But since it's specific to Snunu, I'll talk about this. That the deal was 245 million for 76% of the company. And then the rest is retained by Hamad, our founder. When you look at how these deals come up, the best advice that I can give to an entrepreneur or founder is if you want to have success, whether it's in business, your career, a relationship, you have to deserve that success. And when we look at it, there's actually very little of my brain space that was ever spent on thinking about venture money or how much are we going to make on an exit. What I came to work every day and what everybody on the team comes to work and does is says, how can we build a better product? How can we make our customers happy? How can we be a better partner for our merchants? How can we make the experience better on the network for all of these couriers? What new problems can we solve for customers and new verticals can we launch? So everything that we do is about making our product and our business better. And if you do that, the venture capital and the acquisitions and everybody, they're going to show up on their own. So if you look at the way the first couple rounds went, our Series A, Series B, nobody was interested in us, and they probably shouldn't have been, because the business wasn't that strong yet. By the time we got to Series C and we had this story of very good profitability, good business discipline, we had doubled the business year over year for 6 years, we had very happy customers, then they're really interested in you. So my best advice is if you want to have success, make sure you deserve that success.
And now, if you would like to add, or I'll quickly want to jump from the startup life to the Google's life now, because Google is a very big supporter to the early stages of the startup. And this is something that you do, starting from the mentorship, ending with the perks and credits and so on, that startups are always asking. For example, at Axel, well, there is not a week that I do not receive a message from any of the startup. Is there any credits possible that we can get from Google, from other big players? So tell us about that. For example, like as Matthew was saying, like on the first days and in the first period of the development of the startup, some people say a lot of no, some people say a lot of yes, and corporates like Google play the biggest role, I think, to motivate the startups to really do and continue working on their own products, mostly like technically, because that's the hardest part. So tell us about your approaches. What are those approaches that you use towards the startup?
Yeah, and I just wanted to, I was kind of clapping silently for Matt there, because I think leading with that product first approach is absolutely key, especially in the early stages, right? So I'm looking at, as I mentioned, startups going from pre-seed to Series A, which is all about failing fast, as you mentioned, Khaled, but then also having this hyper fixation on the product you are building. And then I think someone else mentioned it, I was taking loads of notes, by the way, throughout all the panels, was being the surfer and not riding the wave effectively. And they're the startups that I'm really looking for. To answer your question directly, I'm looking at 4 main pillars. So I lead mainly on the commercial side. So that's your CEO or your co-founder. The teams aren't that big that I deal with. Usually it's, sorry, am I speaking too loud? I feel very loud. Anyway, am I okay? We're good? Okay, fab. So I lead on the commercial side, so that's making sure you have a really strong founder or a CEO that's going to lead commercially. I'll list out the 4 pillars and then I'll go into them actually, it's better. So commercials, technology, financial, and then community as well, right? And that's how Google support, and that's effectively what I want to mirror in the customers that I'm looking at. Is on the commercial side, you've a lean and clean go-to-market. What is your go-to-market? Who is your customer? And how are you going to make money? Then we're looking at the technical side. So I think, again, I think Mustafa, he's not here now, but he mentioned this surge of AI companies that have been built in a day through incredible sites like Lovable. But the key is really going deeper into your tech stack and finding and building out day by day. That takes years. It takes a long time to build out a solution like maths that is going to be something that you deserve all of the investment that's going to come in, and then also all of the corporate support that say we're able to provide. Then on your financials, we support here in many different ways. So in terms of Google, and my main role in Google Cloud is we have different programs for different stages that you're at. So in the earlier stages, pre-funding anything, you get 2,000 in credits. Then once you are in, say, an ecosystem or an accelerator, we have a private offer that kind of bridges the gap in between the 2,000 all the way up to our VC funded, which is for, as I mentioned, pre-seed to Series A, which ranges all the way from 100,000 all the way up for our AI companies that are using a lot of GPUs and they're running through a lot of our tech stack very quickly, goes all the way up to 350K, which is essential for that fail-fast motion. Build out your models, build out your tech that you are providing, see what works, see what doesn't, cut anything that is not working and that is not efficient for you and your business. And then the second way we support, the final way we support, which is one of my favorites, which is why I get to do a lot of these discussions, is really building out our community. And I think that's what Google does incredibly. We are known for our people, we are known both internally and externally, and how we engage with so many ecosystems around the world. And that's why I'm so proud to work for a company that does engage so deeply with ecosystems across the world. And that's really through events, it's through, say, investor meetups, and it's through having really engaged partners, and effectively looking at the kind of the triangular effect of being part of that triangle of corporates, the governments, and then the startups themselves, and really creating a space where everyone can succeed.
Thanks a lot. Would you like to quickly add up on something, or we can go to Ben? Okay, I'm trying to ask like specific questions to everyone so that we understand better whoever's doing whatever, because then on the lunch we'll be here for the networking and to be in touch with each other. So now to real Ben. So you work at, let's call it an intersection of brand strategy building, communication strategy for the companies and also for the governments, which is quite important part here. So you worked on many different kind of markets. Could you tell us what's the difference between that kind of like already emerged or already developed markets and between the emerging market just like us, just like Central Asia, because you've been like, you had touch points to different kind of ecosystems, right? And also, how does the work with the government look like in this region? I know we're going to say mostly positive things, but what is the specifics of it?
All right, specifics. So I think I want to start with what makes a great story. And there are lots of ingredients of what makes a great story. You've normally got great characters that you can relate to. You've got a bit of an emotional up and down. You get worried for them at the climax, and then you get a happy ending. These elements of a story are just as relevant whether you're selling a supercar, toilet paper, or a country. And so when we think about, what is the difference between an emerging market and developed market, which are terrible terms that don't really mean much these days, I think, practically speaking, a country like the UK has a pretty clear idea of what story they want the rest of the world to know. The UK is widely recognized as a leader in AI. They've got the best lawyers and legal systems in the world. So if you're wanting to set up a company, you'll go to the UK to do it because you know that the institutions are going to be protected and respected and all the rest of that. What's Uzbekistan's story? Today I've heard lots of brilliant reasons for why people should pay attention to this market, but I don't know what the compelling story is. Who are the characters? What's the narrative arc? And what direction are we going in? That is actually the role of the government, to tell a national story. And I think there's a fantastic opportunity to give a compelling reason for why investors and entrepreneurs the world over should be paying attention to this market. I think there's amazing work being done on the infrastructure, and that's a good thing, because often when you tell a story, you have to make stuff up. You don't have to make anything up here. There's great work being done. We just have to draw awareness to it. So, you asked about, what we do in the region. We've spent the last couple of years doing a big global investment campaign for Kazakhstan, and we built a brand around Born Bold. Because, when you spend time in Kazakhstan, there's a lot of boldness, there's a lot of excitement, people are ambitious. I understand in where I come from in New Zealand, we have a lot of rivalry with Australia, whether it's on the cricket pitch or the rugby field, and I can imagine that there's probably a similar, friendly rivalry here. And so my challenge to, people who are ambitious for Uzbekistan is to say, well, how can you one-up Born Bold? And, what is the story that Uzbekistan's going to tell to the world?
I always try to, whenever there is the story asked about the country itself, Georgians have their stories about wine and food, we'll know that, and we're from time to time fed up with that, but I always try to tell the story of the whole region when I'm trying to represent the brand why someone should be here and someone should be in the region, to be connected to many different cultures and different cultures of doing business, first and foremost, then of different cultures of talent and IT talent and the IT talent acquisition process. So yeah, I think when we are talking, you mentioned Kazakhstan, for example, we're also very closely working with them. There are so many different cultures of working when the different nations are working with each other, and you can really see that in the startup ecosystem. But what really unites us at the end of the day is always at the end of the calls we're saying that, okay, I'm going to expand your market, you're going to expand to our market, then from our market to Turkey, and etc. So this is always connecting this kind of small dots between the countries. So that's what I mostly love about our region, and people are very friendly. And to go back to what mostly investors that are here for the first time, and I've talked to some of them that are here for the first time in Tashkent, also same about Georgia, Kazakhstan and other countries, is that not the people as a talent, IT talent or someone that can work for them and where they can make money, but just people that are meeting them, greeting them, hosting them. This is, I think, also a very important part of the tech culture in the whole, let's call it the society of our region. And quick question for all of you now is that we have talked a lot why it is very good to be here in this region, to do business and work here. But always countries like us that are emerging, that do not know what will be the final product that they will need to sell for the international and global society, and are in the process of improving even their, country's brand strategy. For example, 10 years ago in Georgia it was about wine and food, now it's about IT and tech and making a hub of it. So it really changed from time to time. What do you see? What are those main, several things, 1, 2, 3 things that regions like us lack at this stage of development of the IT and tech ecosystems, and what your advice would be, because you have worked with many different kind of cultures, with many different kind of regions and business owners too. So what are those steps that either the governments or private sector, it doesn't matter, should take towards to make this region really, really, really attractive for big players, so that they open up their offices here, so that they acquire talents here, so that they acquire some startups and do the buyouts here?
I think the number one thing that will attract people here is just hearing good news stories. And so if I can give one piece of advice or message for you guys to take away, anyone that's building a business in this room, you can just do things. You can just sell to anybody. You don't have to hop on a plane or travel somewhere else to sell your product. You can build an audience on X or on LinkedIn, and if you've got an awesome product that solves people's problems, you can sell that product to the world. And when people hear about what you're doing, and if you're telling that story to the world, then opportunities will come off the back of that. So I would say don't let geography be a roadblock. You can just do things, tell your story, focus on building an amazing product, and the rest will work itself out.
Clear enough. From your education and mostly from your knowledge that you have personally, not from the Google's perspective, what is that will matter for our region in the upcoming years? And how do you see it after 10 years? What people will be talking about the region? What is it, and what's happening here after 10 years?
Yeah, that's a great question. I wish I had a crystal ball to actually tell you the definite answer, but I can give you kind of an assumption. Just before I do, so I can craft my answer around it, can I please get a read of the room? So I'm going to ask you to raise your hand if this equates to you. Any founders in the room? Could you put your hand up? One beside me. Okay, I'm going to do like 10% of the room. VCs, investors. Woo! Go to them, they've all the money. And then any ecosystem builders? Mostly ecosystem. Okay, anyone else? Did I miss anyone? Anyone brave enough to shout out?
Government representatives, maybe? Yeah.
Accelerators, incubators? Government? One? Two, maybe. Two.
Three.
Okay, brilliant. Brilliant. Okay, because I don't have a definite answer, I won't give you kind of exactly what I think. I just can't tell it, so I won't say it exactly. What I do think you can do, though, is lean in to what you're already good at. And I think this speaks to Ben's point about really crafting up your story. I see three main industries in Uzbekistan from the short time that I've been here. And a huge thank you to you all, because it has been the most incredible experience from the day I landed in the airport up until now. You've all been so hospitable. So thank you very, very much for that. But I think it's three main industries that I'm seeing, which is manufacturing, agriculture, and then services. And there, that's that neo kind of sector that we're looking at, is the service side from Uzbekistan, from what I can see. And although it is important to look at and cater for and really give care and attention to the sectors and the services sector, like tourism, things like that, you really need to have kind of a look and be caring for all of the primary sectors as well. So really looking into manufacturing and agriculture. And I think where this huge incremental growth and change can come is using technology to really double down into those industries. So using tech and being extremely innovative in a sector like agriculture or manufacturing that needs that incremental change and growth that tech can give, and then providing that as a service. I was outside today talking to a lot of the startups that are doing their showcasing, and I would highly recommend it, because the energy that we've been all talking about through emerging markets is it's all there. So if you need to kind of reboot after all of the panel discussions that we've had, I would highly recommend going out there. But a lot of those are looking into this incremental change that is coming from technology. So I really don't think it's all about focusing on the new thing and building out a whole new AI system, and potentially it is e-commerce and fintech, things like that, but bringing those back to be extremely relevant to the growth of the traditional industries, again, like manufacturing and automotive. And that's where I've really seen the change, and that's really where a lot of the smart startups, I can say, this is from kind of how, I don't know, I've been in the tech industry effectively my whole career, but that's really where I see the big change and the big startups coming from. So, thank you.
Walid?
Thank you. Yeah. So, try to be brief, because I think we have 5 minutes left, and Matt has still a lot to say. So, I'm basically dreaming about a special ecosystem, because what we see, time is up. So, what we see,
it's fine.
Yeah, is basically we are always having the same approach towards startups, right? Everywhere, which is let's have 1,000 startups, right, that are running, and we're going to fund them, and let's hope and pray, you know, for one unicorn, right? This is the usual, you know, thinking, and I'm really dreaming about another approach, because what we are doing when we do that is that we are saying that there is only one path for success. But for example, what we have seen is that startups are actually generating jobs, and if you transform those startups into SMEs, this is still jobs, right? So what are we talking about here? Trying to always push, you know, this decacorn, a unicorn. Great. You get that, you create value, you become a billionaire, great for you, right? How does this, right, on the long run, actually help the economy? So I have no advice to give on where you go or what to do, but I'm dreaming about a way where investors, right, I'm talking specifically to VCs here, not to the state, because for the state is to create, you know, jobs for everyone, but is to have that approach, is to say, listen, maybe I'm not going to do a spray and pray type of strategy, right? Maybe I'm not going to think that one startup should cover my whole portfolio. Maybe I'm going to make sure that out of 1,000 startups that I have invested in, 500 actually survive. And, you know, and I kill the economics of 90% of the startups disappearing after 2 years, right? Because I find it ridiculous that we are trying to push jobs. We are trying to push capacity for economies to grow fast. And there is skills, and there is youth. But what we are telling to them is that if you do not reach 100 million, if you do not reach, you know, 500 million, you're nothing, right? Or it was not a success. And I found it truly ridiculous. So I think what Central Asia could be known for, maybe, and Uzbekistan might be leading that, maybe that's the first ecosystem in the world where we target a transformation and an evolution from startup to SMEs, which I never seen so far, right? It just it happens by accident most of the time, right? Startup grows, and then they say, oh, I think I cannot grow anymore, let me, you know, scale down, structure everything, right? And then I become profitable and I keep the jobs. Great, right? But it's always an accident. So why not do it as a, you know, something that is, we want to achieve, simply.
That was a very, very interesting vision. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, that I had a really good answer in my head, and then 3 other panelists gave great answers about how you can continue to scale and guarantee success. So because I have nothing to add to how to guarantee success, I'll take a different angle at this question. There's this great quote from Charlie Munger, who is the co-chair of Berkshire Hathaway, that he would always say, I just want to know where I'm going to die so that I never go there. And you think about it and it's very funny, but there's a lot of wisdom in this quote that it's equally valuable to think about how can I guarantee failure, because it's important to avoid those things versus just thinking about how do you be successful. And when you're looking at an emerging market or a startup, there's 3 things that you can do that will guarantee failure. You can have arrogance, lots of bureaucracy, and complacency. And when I visited Uzbekistan, I see a lot of energy. I see a country that's very determined to grow and to get better day after day. And I think if you keep doing those things and avoiding the 3 ABCs, that you're going to have a very successful future here.
My dream team, applause to our speakers. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Our time is up, but we will, I think all of us are staying for the lunch, so please approach, let's get to know each other. I just arrived yesterday, so I need to get to know a lot of people here. So thank you a lot, and thanks for listening. I hope that was insightful. I'm sure that was insightful. And thanks again.
Well done, guys. Get on stage after. Thank you so much for a great panel, and that concludes our content for this evening, or afternoon, I should say. I have one final guest to invite upon stage, and that is Mr. Kuchatov, who is the CEO of the IT Park.
Thank you, thank you.
I just want to say thank you so much.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear partners, friends, it's a wonderful day today. It's a momentum. Today, the first time where the WebSummit spotlight has arrived to Central Asia, right here to Tashkent. And And on behalf of the IT Park Uzbekistan, the Minister of Digital Technologies, I would like to say you thank you. Thank you for coming here from all over the world to be with us. And your presence here has shown that, yeah, we are a young ecosystem. We are emerging markets. But we have shown a tremendous pace of growth and a big potential to be a part for global stage for technology innovation and outsourcing. And today it's not just one more conference. Today it's a bridge between West and East, between vision and opportunity. And I see, and I am sure that today our bridge is more stronger than ever. And during this week, we've heard voices from top companies all over the world. AWS, NVIDIA, Meta, Amazon, Stanford, MIT, Plug and Play, Alchemist, Oxford Insights, Startup Genome, Startup Link, Dealroom, hundred of companies and venture funds visited here Tashkent, Uzbekistan. And I think it's not just, they aren't just saying, they are opening the doors, which showing that the next billion-dollar companies be born here in Central Asia. And what's the best thing which advocates this? It's numbers. And the last few years, Uzbekistan has become one of the fastest growing tech ecosystem. We've risen from just over 600,000 US dollars in 2017 in export till more than 800 million US dollars 2024. From 4 companies in 2017 to over the 800 companies last year. And today IT Park has become the home for over the 3,000 companies from all over the world here in Tashkent in Uzbekistan. And just for example, every month we are accepting, how many? More than 200 companies to be a member of IT Park and 40 foreign companies. And it's mentioned before that our ecosystem, it was recognized as one of the fastest growing ecosystem in the world. And I think it's just beginning. It's just beginning. Uzbekistan already has home, and in Uzbekistan we're born 2 unicorns, and it's just beginning. And let's leave this room, let's leave this conference with not just only inspiration, with the commitments to invest. Investors, raise your hand. With the commitments to build new partnership, to make friends. And I'm sure that will shape the next growth of will shape the next decade of growth in Uzbekistan and Central Asia. And only together, to work together, we can achieve that, and we can write down the new chapter of innovation in Central Asia and in Uzbekistan. Thank you for coming.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I just want to invite everyone onto the stage before you all go for your lunch, that we're going to take a picture, a group picture, so everyone come onto stage. And also say thank you so much to our partners, to the Ministry, to IT Park, and to all the speakers who joined us. It's been a fantastic day. So please come and join us on stage.
Bir. Ladies and gentlemen, we invite everyone to the stage to take a joint picture. Thank you. Hurmatli mehmonlar, iltimos sahnaga biz bilan общий rasmga tushishga chiqinglar, iltimos. Are you ready? When we count 3, 2, 1, we do like yoo-hoo! Like 3, 2, 1! One more time, please. 3, 2, 1!